Hi, everybody. Welcome to Piercing the Veil. Oh, sorry. I got the wrong. I clicked on the wrong one.
Whoa.
Sorry, well, that was Cory, by the way. That's our guest for
Hi,
tonight.
Cory.
So.
Well, happy Sunday, everybody. Hope everyone's doing good. Everyone's having nice weather, enjoying the trees changing color and falling.
So yeah, everything's nice around here. We actually hit 60 degrees today. That was a nice, pleasant surprise.
Actually, I think I saw 64.
Oh.
We had our first hard freeze, which means most of the bugs are going to be gone. Lost our tomato plants. Then it warms up again. Doesn't that always happen?
Yeah.
One night a hard freeze ruins everything. Then it gets warm again.
We'll have trees and stuff budding again before winter hits.
Well, before it gets too crazy, we will say, I don't like this stuff. We're sorry, people. YouTube is switching everyone over. So it's hard to see who everybody is.
So if you're a regular and it doesn't show your normal chat name, let us know who you are, because it shows your YouTube login,
right?
Your ID from YouTube, so it might not necessarily match what you've always had for your chat ID.
Yeah, I don't like this. I hope they switch that back. So I do recognize Gemini, and we got Bigfoot Dwarf. We've got Gary. And we got Clay, Conspiracy Music. Welcome in. We got Debbie. Now that does say Debbie. Is that it, everybody? We got Cory in here earlier. If you don't know, it's Mojo.
Well, here,
Judy Wheeler. I saw Judy in here earlier. All right, welcome in, everybody.
Yeah, welcome in. So we'll just go ahead and bring Cory up, since I boo-booed and had him up at the very beginning anyway. But, everybody knows Cory, Boondock Mojo. He's in our chat quite a bit. And Wednesday nights on our Night Owl Lounge, he's a big help because he always provides pictures and stories for us to talk about. So we thought it was due time to bring him on and actually talk about these stories.
Oh, yes. I saw Roger and Monica came in. Welcome in, guys. So yeah, let's just get going.
All right.
I just remember one night on a Wednesday night, he was telling us about this junkyard, and I went, "Oh, sounds very."
Yeah, that was good stories, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Not stories, but experiences. All right. Well, let's bring Cory up.
All right. Welcome,
hi, Cory.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've been trying to get you on. I know it's been several months, and finally, you know what? We've got to get you on.
Good to be here.
Awesome.
So, like I said,
like y'all's having Oklahoma. What's that?
Go ahead.
Oh, I said it sounds like y'all's having Oklahoma weather.
Yeah. I think the whole Midwest. Yeah, it's been gorgeous here lately. We finally reached fall, but I just hope it don't get back up in the 80s like it was.
We're having wall cloud activity and everything this late in the year.
Wow.
You know, that's not normal.
No,
we had wall clouds Friday.
Wow. And I know hot weather started for us in May, and normally we don't get that hot in May. And then, it just continued a few weeks ago. That's almost 6 months of summer. I mean, it's just been so hot and sticky and humid. It's been miserable.
Well, y'all talked about the trees budding.
Yeah.
And used to, when we had steadier weather, when I was growing up, you couldn't trick the mesquites. They knew when it was time to bud. And now they're getting tricked a bunch.
Right.
Yeah.
Weather's getting a little crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. We have like lilac bushes and all kinds of stuff, and all of a sudden you'll see them start budding. It's like, no, it's not time for you to bud.
Yeah.
I also noticed it's been we've got an area, it's called Spoon River Drive, and it's very popular. Everybody goes to it. You go down these country roads and these old farm communities, and they're doing apple butter and stuff like that in the kettle. Well, when I was a kid, we'd go there a lot. those trees were full bloomed and falling down, and it was just the most gorgeous country drive. The last few years, no, they're not full changed until like towards the end of October. They're still not fully changed. So I know things have changed a lot since, we were kids.
Well, the end of the world's coming, so.
Yeah, bring it.
Well, just wait till next week. The date will change.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and let's get into some of your experiences and your stuff that you want to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Tonight's the anniversary, I guess, of my first experience, or the Halloween anniversary. But I don't think it had much to do with it being Halloween. In 1995, we had that's when the severe drought had been in effect for probably 2 years. And we had all this land in CRP programs. Y'all's probably familiar with that because y'all farm. The conservation program, where the native grass and some other grasses were brought in. So we had a lot of this dry blue stem, which I don't know why they planted that here. It's worthless. But we had all this heavy, tall blue stem, and we're having wildfire problems.
Oh.
And yeah. Come to find out, as a cop starting the fires.
Wow.
But anyway, I digress on that. We had heavy smoke in the air at this time. And I remember all the kids went trick-or-treating early that night because of the smoke in the air. I think that's probably what had a lot to do with this experience. But looking back, this is my first intense experience. And I had worked probably 20 hours straight. And I went home after work and I just conked out, and I woke up about probably 10 o'clock at night. I went and hopped in my truck, went to the store to get some beer before they closed, ran into some of my friends. And they said, "What are you doing?" And there was nobody out. Everybody was in their house and everything. Everybody was, cooped up. And you could smell that burnt grass in the air. Firefighters were out battling this stuff. 2 of them had gotten killed fighting a fire 2 months before this happened. And when lightning struck an oil tank out there while they were out there working, putting out this grass fire. And so, just all this bad stuff that happened. And we had some fire bugs out starting fires, and it was just a constant battle. Well, I get in with my friends, and they've got these 2 girls with them, and there's end up being 4 of us, 4 guys, 2 girls. And they said, "What do you want to do tonight?" And one of them said, "Let's go to a haunted cemetery." And at this point in time, I'd kind of stepped away from believing any of this stuff was real in my life. And you go through those stages. And this is the night I got taught a valuable lesson about the reality of the woo, I guess we could call it. But I said, "I'll go. I ain't scared." I said, "I don't believe in that shit anyway." So she gives directions going out, and it's Salem Cemetery.
Oh, that's bad already.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we pull up, and the gate is closed, but it's not locked. And my friend Clinton, we were in his pickup, and he said, "Hey, Cole, we'll get out and unlock the gate. We can pull in." I said, "Let's just leave the truck in the driveway. That way we don't get hemmed up in here if the cops show up. We can say we, had to take a leak or whatever. No, that's the only reason we stopped here."
Right.
That's probably a good idea. But like I said, lots of smoke in the air that night. You could smell it. If you went outside, it would get in your clothes. It was so thick. It was a half moon, really bright half moon, but all that smoke in the air made it look really strange. I remember looking up at the moon and going, "Man, I wish I had a camera right now," because this smoke was moving through the air. It's weird. So anyway, they all go in, and I'm right behind them. And I look at some graves to the right, and I'm looking, and it says Salem Cemetery established in 1906 or 7, which would have been right around statehood or right before that, when we were still Indian Territory. And I looked at the graves to the right, and they were 1800. Really nice tombstones, headstones. And I was sitting there thinking, man, that had to have been done later, because these were really nice etched headstones. And I'm sitting there, and everybody else went inside. And my best friend, still my best friend to this day, and kind of my paranormal investigating partner, not by choice, just a lot of this stuff happens to him too. And I guess that's why we get along so well. We kind of vibrate on the same frequency. Or, like I said, we're a couple of assholes, is what everybody says. But anyways, he's one of the guys that's in the group. And evidently, I'm sitting there looking at these graves, and I'm going, man, these are old. And all of a sudden, I hear everybody running. And you know how when you hear footfalls, everybody pounding the ground when they're running?
Right.
Sounds like a herd of cows. And I turn and I look, and they're all running back to the gate to get in the truck. Well, when everybody's running, you just kind of tend to fall in with naturally.
Yep.
So I take off and run with them, and I got in the truck, and they're all huffing and puffing, and I said, "What are we running from?" I don't know. And I said, "What do you mean you don't know?" I said, "Was a mama cow in there or something?" Because that's what I'm thinking. That's the most dangerous animal around in Oklahoma, in Southwest Oklahoma at the time. A mama with a baby, a mama cow with a baby, is my first instinct. That's what I thought happened. And I looked at my friend Clinton, and I said, "What was it?" And he just looked at me and kept. And I turned the interior light on in the pickup, and I said, "Clinton, stop the truck." And these girls are going, "No, Cory, no." And I said, and I looked back at my best friend, because I knew he'd tell me. I said, "Jeremy, what were y'all running from?" And he goes, "Cory, I don't know. I don't know what it was."
Oh my.
And I said, "Well, I want to go back, because I didn't get to see it." And the girls are throwing a fit. They're adamant. They're like, "No, Cory." And I was like, "Sorry. If you can't tell me what it was, I want to go back and I want to see it for myself." Well, Jeremy goes, "I'll go back in there with you." And
oh my.
Yeah, so I have Clinton back the pickup up. We didn't get probably 100 yards away from the gate on the dirt road when I turned the interior light on and just told him to stop. We back up, and these girls are going, "We're not going in there." And I said, "I don't need you to." Well, we back up to the driveway into the gate, pull back up there, and I get out, and Jeremy gets out, and my friend Clinton and my friend Shane, they're like, "Well, if y'all's getting out, we're going to get out." Well, the girls didn't want to stay in the pickup by themselves, so they go back in with us.
Oh, no.
Well, they was too scared to sit in the truck.
Right.
Which I thought was the strangest thinking. Because if I'd have been one of the girls and been scared, I'd have locked the doors in the truck and stayed in there,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we go in, and I said, "Okay, what are we looking at?" And Jeremy goes, "Man, I had to pee," and I started, and he said, I was walking to the back side of the cemetery because I didn't want to pee on anyone's grave, because he didn't know anybody there, So I said, "Okay, so where were we going?" And my friend Clinton, oh yeah, when we pulled the pickup up, I said, "Get the headlights on high." So we shot the headlights into the cemetery, which didn't help a whole lot. Like I said, smoke in the air, heavy smoke in the air. And my friend Clinton goes like this and points and goes, "Right there." And I said, "There's nothing up there." And he goes, "Keep walking." And I said, "Towards what?" And he goes, "Just keep walking the direction you're going." And I started walking, and I got about, I'm going to say, probably 10, 15 feet away from this. It was a double grave. It had 2 tombstones in it, but it had its own fence around it. And it was that wire you put around a garden,
Yeah.
to keep varmints and stuff out, which really don't work, but it's decorative. It humps over like that right there, and it's real thick woven wire.
Mm-hmm.
It was a double grave, and it had that little wire fence around it with a little gate and everything. And when I got about probably 15, 12 feet from it, I got hit with a static electricity charge, and I felt my hair stand up on my head and my arms, and it hit me like, whoo! And he goes, keep going. And I said, I feel that from here. He goes, get up close. And I said, don't tell me what to do. I'm doing this myself. And I stuck my arm in there, and I would pull it back, and I would feel the hairs lay back down on my arm, and I'd pull it. He goes, get up close and see what it does. And I scooted up a little bit, and all of a sudden I start hearing popping, like static electricity pop. Just like, when you was a kid, you'd run barefoot on the carpet and then touch fingers.
Right.
Yeah.
That kind of pop. But it was in the air, and when I got close to the fence on this little double grave, the frickin' weeds and grass stood up like this and just started vibrating.
Oh my.
And that popping started, and I turned around, I looked at my friend Clinton, and he goes, get closer. And so what I did was I was like, okay, so I'm a logical thinker. First thing I'm thinking, somebody's messing with us, right? It's Halloween. Somebody's pulling a prank on us. Somebody knew that somebody would come out to this cemetery. Is the first thing I'm thinking, which I still do that. I start to eliminate all the logical explanations, and when nothing's left, we know what's left.
Right.
But I stuck my hand in there to where I could feel the static, and I walked all the way around that grave with my arm keeping right at it, and it was a bubble of energy. I could feel like when I raised my hand, I could feel it kind of go away, and I drop it back down in there. It was like a sphere, like a half sphere.
Oh my.
Was the shape of the energy. I walked all the way around it. And my friend Clinton goes, get up there close to the fence. And I said, why? He goes, just get up there close to the fence. So I'm etching to it real slow, and I'm moving probably just a couple inches at a time. And all of a sudden, my right leg, when I got close, I'm going to say within 3-4 feet of that little fence, I felt this electrical charge wrap around my leg.
Oh my.
Like a rope, and start shocking me. Okay? And like I said, when I'm doing this, the weeds would go and just start shaking, and that popping sound would start. And I'd back away from it, and it would die down and quit. And I turned around, I looked at Clinton, and I said, somebody's messing with us. So, is what I'm thinking. So I was thinking, maybe it's somebody's hooked some kind of electrical charge to this thing, or, something. And I don't know why, but they all take off running back to the pickup again, right? So I go with them. But this time, I got behind the wheel of the truck, and I'm driving. Because the reason I ran with them, I didn't want them all to leave me there. And also, I want to be in charge of the pickup in case I wanted to come back in. And they all jump in the truck, and Clinton's like, scoot over. And I was like, just let me drive. I said, get in. And Clinton, got in with one of the girls, and he was kind of occupied with her. So I backed out, and I started easing down the road again, and I could not handle it. It was killing me. And I stopped the pickup, and I turned the interior light on, and I turned around, and I looked to the back seat, and that girl back there goes, no, Cory. I said, yep, we're going back. And she's like, I don't know. And I said, why did y'all take off running? We don't like it in there. And I said, I'm going back. So I backed the truck up in the same scenario. I pull it back up, just like Clinton did the first time, or the second time, and same deal. I'll go with you. I'm going too. Well, I'm going too. Well, we're not staying in the truck alone. So we go back, and now I'm thinking I'm going to have Clinton and Jeremy help me observe this thing, and I'm going to, but the thing is, guys, you couldn't see really well into to the double grave because of the smoke in the air.
Right.
And just it was only half moon that night. It was bright, but it wasn't penetrating all that smoke because all the wildfires were happening to the east of us, and it was just barely moving to the west. All that smoke was freaking 30 miles east of us, and it was already, moving to where we were. So I'm thinking this thing was so strong. I'm not kidding you. I felt that if I would have just jumped in there, that it would have electrocuted me.
Oh,
Is how strong this static charge was, and I still believe that to this day. My friends are crazy, and they wouldn't even dare jump over that little fence to get in that thing.
wow.
But I told him I'm sitting there and I'm trying to, and this is back before, we even if we had a camera, I don't know if we could have really done anything with it that night to take pictures or anything. But I would have my friend Clinton start scooting up close to it, and I'd be watching it, and I seen something moving inside the grave on top of one of them, and for some reason, no foliage grew directly over the top of one of these graves. Oh yeah, they were the oldest tombstones in the place. They were 1880s.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, and they had their own little fence. So I'm figuring this is the two first people buried there, or whatever's buried there. It's the first two graves.
I just wonder why nothing's growing there.
Well, it was growing just, how sometimes, cemetery spots and stuff will have that just a little bare spot over the burial spot.
yes.
Nothing will grow. It wasn't very big, but I'd be telling my friend Clinton closer, and he was like, "Man, if you want to do it yourself." And I said, "Clinton, I'm trying to watch this to see what's going on." I said, "All I need you to do is scoot up a little closer." But the closer anyone got to it, the more intense the movement of the weeds and grass and the popping sound and just the static charge got. And I'm seeing something moving on top of one of those grave spots, and it's whipping like this. And then I'm thinking, we got rattlesnakes and stuff. We're not very far from the Red River. It was rare to see them that far north where we was, because I'm going to say we were probably 25 miles north of the river where that cemetery sits. Generally, didn't get a whole lot of rattlesnakes then. We do now. But I'm thinking, man, that's what that could be. There could be a bunch of them in there. Logical explanation is what I'm trying to come up with. And I'm watching this thing whip, serpentine whip, and it's not going anywhere. And I'm trying to get close to it, and man, the static charge is so intense, it's hard to keep my focus on this. But I remember thinking to myself, that looks like a human spine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it looked like it wasn't sticking straight up out of the ground. It kind of was coming at a 45 and laying flat, after it come out, kind of like this right here.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, there's no way that's a human spine, right? I mean, come on. This stuff ain't real. Someone's messing with us. And eventually, I'm like, I'm done here. I've had all that, because I was out of logical explanations. And a lot of stuff has happened since then, especially with me and my friend Jeremy, who was with me that night. But it freaked everybody else out to where it changed their life. Because me and Jeremy was wanting to go back on the anniversary of that night and try to get everyone together that was there that night to see maybe if we could get something going activity-wise. You know, maybe it was us, is what I was thinking. Us 6.
So did you guys ever get close enough to touch the fence or see what the names of the headstones?
The names on the headstones, I've got them. Both of them said Duncan, 1888.
1888.
1888. So we do an investigation into this, and my friend Jeremy, his mom works at the courthouse, so she's got access to records, right?
Wow. Okay.
You can't find anything. I mean, it's still a mystery to this day. Well, it was still Indian territory. So basically, if there was any record of it, it's probably going to be written in somebody's family's Bible or something like that, you know. And there's always rumors that, those 2 people were murdered by renegade Indians and all that stuff.
Right.
That stuff hardly ever happened, to be honest. I mean, I've done all the research on it. Maybe one time that happened. But, you know, that stuff more happened with the Comanche down in South Texas. That's where all that stuff happened, you know, as far as the ambush attacks and, you know, coming into San Antonio and all that stuff. But anyways, we can't find anything. And it's still a mystery to me today. And I've had some people go, man, I bet I can find it. And I'll be like, okay, good luck. I never hear from them again. And I message them back in like 3 months. And they're like, I couldn't find anything. I said, oh, really? You know, but I'm pretty sure they're the first 2, or that's the first 2 buried there. And
they had to have family if they had a tombstone.
Yeah, because those graves are nice. But
right.
I was really leery about telling anybody about this because you know how people are. And I don't care now. I'll come up and ask a complete stranger. You know, I don't care. I'll walk up and just be standing in line with somebody and I'll look and I'll go, hey, are you from around here or where are you from? You ever see any ghosts? Got any haunted stories? You know, I have zero give a shits about what anybody thinks anymore.
The little graveyards that my family are buried in, we have one that used to have a church, so it was a church graveyard. But then there's a plot of land that actually belonged to a family, and they let people bury, you know, not only their family, but family friends or however they're related through marriage or whatever. So there's like 5 fountains that are buried in this Sugar Grove Cemetery. This was part of a farmer's or a family thing. So the original family here in Illinois, Central Illinois, right outside of our town. But the original family, just like you were saying, they had their area and it was kind of fenced off. So maybe you're right. Maybe those 2 were the original graves of whoever owned the land or the family that was there.
But, you know, the thing is, I've had, and I generally, I mean, a lot of that stuff's easier to do now, but it's not easy. Damn dog. He knows when I'm doing a show and wants to play.
That's usually when I don't.
Maybe if you go to the courthouse and look up and see maybe a plat book and see who owned that land.
Jeremy's mother was the tax assessor, and she said there's nothing in that courthouse that can tell you anything about that cemetery until like 1906 or 1907.
Yeah. Back in the late 1800s, I don't think they were that accurate with records and stuff.
I mean, think about it. This wasn't established. I mean, statehood. They say when they say statehood happened in, let's say, 1906. Really, it wasn't truly established for another 10 years. You know, to really get it going, right?
Right.
And get records built up and all that stuff. Because I mean, you could still shoot somebody here and not get down and not stand a trial for murder. Because all the Indian laws are what was, enforced.
Okay.
And there were people that would be on one side of the meridian line, which was Oklahoma territory. They changed it from Indian territory to Oklahoma territory, and they would be at a bar, and they had all these bars set up on the meridian line. What the meridian line did, it separated the Chickasaw and Chickasaw and Cherokee nations. And if they wanted to fight, they'd go across the road and shoot at each other. And once they walked back over, if one of them killed the other one, they wouldn't have to stand trial because they did it over there.
Oh, wow.
Where the Indian law applies.
I see maps every once in a while. I see maps on the internet every once in a while where there's that strip of land that has no jurisdiction whatsoever.
Okay, when they established statehood, I'm right. My county is right at the bottom of Oklahoma, between the Red River that separates us and Texas. Okay, every county from east to west at the bottom of Oklahoma was still Indian territory until like 1915.
Wow.
And statehood was supposedly established in 1906 or 1907. So, they still had that strip of land that all the counties on the very south border were located. So, that's why it's so hard to get any records from here.
So you've never been back to that cemetery since then?
Yeah.
I've been back. Never felt the same aura or energy or
nothing?
No.
No.
At night.
No. Me and Jeremy were going to go back one Halloween, but when you have kids and everything and they want to go trick or treat, and it kind of throws a monkey wrench into the plans of doing something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Come on, kids.
Me and Jeremy were good to go. So I called the 4 people that were with us that night, and I got told, hell no, there's no way I'm going back. One of the girls told me that she tries to go back out there periodically from time to time, and she can't make herself get out of the pickup at the gate.
Oh.
To this day.
Wow.
And my friend Clinton, here's what he told me, and I had to respect this, but he goes, look, Cory, after that night, I made a deal with God, and I'd rather not break it with him. And I said, all right. I said, I ain't going to bother you no more. I can respect that. He had some problems in life he was trying to work out. He's still doing good, so I guess it helped. But after I started learning about showing respect when you go onto a property, asking, or just telling them your intentions before you go.
Right.
And I took an offering out there, had a couple of shamans, a couple of medicine men start teaching me a little bit about that. And I've got, some Native American blood in me, not Comanche, that heavy Comanche numbers were right here in southern Oklahoma on the river. They still have the powwow and everything about 10 miles away from here every year.
Oh.
Yeah, and what the Comanche did was they moved the water and the seasons dictated where their camps were located. So, they grew crops and everything. I mean, they farmed, and they had winter camp, summer camp, spring camp, and fall camp.
Yes.
And they even had a slave camp down on the river. Yeah. And, there's a lot of things people don't know that they don't teach in history class.
Yeah.
Wit.
So did your friends, the first time when they ran, did they ever tell you what they felt or what they saw? Like something was chasing them, right? Or they felt like they had to get away?
Yeah, that's why I ran too. You know, because I thought maybe a mama cow had got in there. You know, mama cows are dangerous because when we went out there, you know, there's a lot of connected grassland and farm, you know, just cattle, you know, grass for cattle and that. But that was my first, because I always go with a logical explanation for anything. So the last thing I'm thinking is something supernatural or paranormal.
Right.
Because at that point in time, like I said, I don't believe in that shit. I'll go out there. And after that night, me and my best friend, Jeremy, have had multiple crazy stuff go on ever since then. And we're usually together, and when we're together, it really attracts it. And we have our own experiences away from each other, too, for some reason. Does somebody have a question?
Gary just popped up. Love County is named after the Native American that had over 100 slaves.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where Brown Springs is. That's where Tex likes to go. He said, "What, are you scared?" And I said, "Yeah, but it ain't the woo I'm scared of that place. It's the county."
Did you guys ever get pictures of that area of the tombstones?
Of what?
Did you ever get pictures of the tombstones or the graves?
No, I can go out there. And take a picture.
There you go, Tammy. If you know Tammy Johnson, she said, "Too bad you didn't have pictures of the graves." Maybe she wants to try to look them up.
Good luck. I'll tell you what. I'll go take a picture of the grave. I'll take some multiple pictures, and I can send them to Geryl, and he can put them up for. But I'll put them on my channel.
I can forward them.
Both of them.
Okay, I can forward them to Tammy.
But you said the last name was Duncan?
Yeah.
Duncan.
From what I remember, with my luck, the Mandela effect has probably changed them.
Yeah, you never know these days.
But I took an offering back out there years later. The guy I was with that day, I told him, I said, "Hey, man," I was riding with him. We went and ate. And I said, "Hey, you got time to stop by somewhere?" I said, "Man, run me by the supermarket, and then I need to go out here to the cemetery." He said, "What, that one you were telling me about?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I ain't going out there." And I said, "You stay in the pickup, Rick." You know, he stayed in the truck the whole time. I said, "Don't you run off and leave me." And this was in the fall when it was starting to get cold. And I went out there, but I took some fruit out there to the grave, you know, their grave spot, and offered it. I sat it in there, and I told them, I said, "You know, I didn't mean to intrude on you guys that night, and I want you to have this." But they like fruit, and when I got back to the pickup, my friend goes, "I saw that little gate moving." I said, "Rick, the wind's blowing, you dummy." He said, "All right, something's out there." I said, "Dude, it was the wind blowing the little gate on that spot." I said, "I didn't feel nothing." I said, "I just wanted to go tell them, you know, that I didn't mean to intrude on them." Because that's something I've learned is you need to show respect when you enter, because that's their house, you know? And
right.
You need to state your intentions, and it doesn't hurt to take an offering. But I use tobacco now.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah, and not a pack of cigarettes. Someone asked in chat one day, "Could I just take cigarettes?" I was like,
"No, fresh tobacco."
Yeah.
Gary says he guesses he's going to have to go down there and make a trip there to the cemetery with you.
I'm game.
Go live.
Hey, I need somebody to talk to the police.
Yeah, we'll just let Gary do it. Gary, you can go in there first.
Talk to the police, Gary. But, you know, I tend to not get along with them very well because it's local. quit. This
So what-
guy.
So it is Love County. Is it Love County though, where the cemetery is?
No. That's where Tex likes to go to Brown Springs.
Oh, Brown Springs.
Oh, okay. That's where Brown Springs
Yeah.
is.
That's
Okay.
Love County. This is Cotton County. About 75 miles west of Brown Springs. But
Okay.
Brown Springs is even with me just to the west because we're both on the river. I'm like 7 miles north of the Red River where I live in Cotton County,
Okay.
and that's where this Salem Cemetery is. It's about 10 miles away from me.
Okay.
You ever heard of Lawton, Oklahoma, where Fort Sill's located and everything?
Yes.
Okay, the cemetery is about 20 miles southeast of Fort Sill,
All right.
and my place sits about 30 miles from Fort Sill.
I just thought if anybody wanted to be an internet detective, they can go ahead and have a little information.
Well, if you get on Google Earth and stuff, that cemetery is kind of hard to find, even if you've been there.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, if you're a lot of people don't realize, man, it's a lot different looking from up there in space than when you're down here actually walking around on it. You could look at a spot you're very familiar with, and it don't look the same. You just don't recognize it like that. Like you do
How
from
big
down
is the
here
cemetery?
perspective. Huh?
How big is the cemetery?
Acre wise, it's probably 2 acres.
Okay.
Oh, that's pretty good size
Yeah.
then.
No. See, Temple Masonic Cemetery, our town cemetery, where I live at next to the salvage yard, it just sits a quarter mile to the west of me.
A Masonic cemetery to the junkyard. Ooh.
Yeah, where my house is right next to the salvage yard.
Wow.
I live on my family's property where our wholesale nursery used to be, and I used to, when marijuana was legalized, I grew marijuana out here, and it was just me out here, not a hustle and bustle wholesale place. And that's where I had my first encounter out here. We had that. Remember I told you about the drought, that bad drought?
Yes.
Well, our local lakes and stuff had dried up, and they were down to like 8%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, there were people talking about drinking sewer water that had been ran through a reverse osmosis system, and I was like, I'll move before that. But in 72 hours, the lake was back up to over 100%. We had that much heavy rain in 2015. When
That's
that
a lot of
storm hit, yes, when that storm happened, it activated something. I don't know if it changed a ley line. But ley lines move. They're not always in a stationary spot. They tend to move a little bit, just like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Those lines have lines that move. It's just not a direct, like a cable line, and everything right here stays. It's kind of tricky. But I'm telling you, I've been out here all my life. And after that rainstorm that filled the lakes and the ponds back up, something happened out here. There was a change. And my friend Jeremy,
has anybody else ever talked about, so say that incident in the cemetery was part of a ley line or whatever activated? Has anybody else ever experienced it anywhere further than a cemetery or in front of the cemetery?
Hardly anybody around here, Geryl, really is into this stuff. I've learned that if they point and laugh at you, they're scared.
Yeah.
And half of those people that do that have seen something, and that's why they do it. And it takes like pulling teeth to get them to admit it, because they're scared to death everybody's going to laugh at them and call them crazy.
Right.
Me, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm past worrying about all that. Because, you're just going backwards. If that's what you're worried about,
Yep.
I embrace it, man. I tell them, hell yeah, I'm crazy. I still saw it.
Mhm.
You know, just because I'm crazy don't change what I saw. And they'll go, man, what kind of drugs was you on? And I said, I took a picture of this stuff with my phone. Is my phone on drugs too? You know, must be some good dope if it makes my phone high. You know, it just, I don't know. Some people are set in their ways, but I've learned that the ones that ridicule you and laugh at you and make fun of you are scared.
Yep.
99% of the time. And if you'll get them to let their guard down, they'll tell you what they saw. You know, eventually.
Yep.
But anybody I've ever talked to, when I asked them about that place, that Salem cemetery that we had the experience at, I just so happened to be at a guy's house who used to did the contract to mow that place one year. And he said, I only mowed it one time. And I told him I was done. They could find somebody else. I didn't want the money.
What do you say? Why?
I was headed out the front door. It was getting late. I needed to get back to the house. And I said, we'll talk about this some other time. And I hadn't got to finish the conversation yet. I need to get out there and see.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people that are maintenance people for cemeteries or whatever have some pretty strange experiences.
Mm-hmm. Well,
wow.
You know, fast forward to let's see, this cemetery deal happened in '95. So I'm still trying at this point in time. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the woo. You know what I mean? About cryptids, all that stuff. I've kind of always believed Sasquatch was real, even from the time I was a little kid. My mother bought those histories or mysteries of the world encyclopedia books,
right?
That you'd order like from Britannica or whatever. That you know, and I saw you know, the Patty pictures and stuff, and I remember thinking, man, that the Gimlin film, the Gimlin photos and stuff, that looks real. Still to this day, I think it's some of the best footage there is.
Mm-hmm.
And quit. Starting to bite hard. Anyway, me and my cousin, we're going to go ride four-wheelers on his grandma's family's place about probably 20 miles east of where I live, and it's called Comanche, Oklahoma. And it's the county to the north and to the east of us. And it was an old family land spot where his grandmother, you could still see where they walked to school. And all the gates are real small. And like we get on four-wheelers and it barely fit from section to section. You know, this was a pretty good sized place. But it had a low had a low creek area at the bottom, and then it rose up, and it was just the most beautiful scenery. I wish I took a picture of it, but it was so beautiful. There was a rock that sat up at the high point, and I called her Granny June. She wasn't my granny, but she was my cousin's granny. And I said, June, that is the most beautiful place. And she said, Cory, there was a family of Native Americans, some Indians that lived in that cave right under that rock when I was a little girl. And I found out some archaeologists come out there and found one of the kids' dolls and put it in a museum. But I said, they lived in the cave. She said, well, yeah, part of the year, you know, they had them like little teepee, but she said when the weather would get bad, they'd get in that cave, which is how the Indians dealt with tornadoes. They had little caves. Mm-hmm. They were telling each camp or wherever they stayed had a cave.
Okay.
That they could get in when the weather got bad. So we go out to this place. Man, I can't remember if it was my first visit there or the second visit there, but it was like a tradition. We'd go sit on the rock and look at the scenery and stuff because it was just beautiful. It's where the trees started, where the where the grass prairie changed to thick trees in the woods. And it's the meridian line. It was right on that meridian line. Well, we're sitting up there, got the four-wheelers killed, we're just sitting on the rock, and all of a sudden I hear a tree snap. And I'm talking, you know what a healthy tree snap sounds like?
Yeah.
It sounds like a shotgun going off.
Right.
And I looked at my cousin and I said, what was that? And he said, probably just a big old buck rubbing up against the old rotten tree. And I said, there wasn't no rotten tree, Eric. That was a clean break. Something snapped a healthy tree down there.
Wow.
And he said, let's ride down there and see. And this is a couple of years after the cemetery experience, so I'm really not, I don't have it in my head yet of how real this kind of stuff is. So we had another guy with us. It's one of the same guys that was at the cemetery with me on the first night.
Okay.
Eric, my cousin, we follow him down into this bottom where the woods start. We pull in there, and everybody kills their four-wheelers. And we're just sitting there in the quiet. And after about a minute or two, nobody talked. We just sat there and listened. And after a minute or two, something went, whoa, and just it sounded like a tractor throttling up. Like a a big John Deere tractor, and you just take the throttle and mash it all the way forward while you're in park.
Right.
And because that's where I went with what I heard, a logical explanation. And I thought, what the hell? And I said, who's out here on a tractor? And my cousin goes, I don't know. And I said, did you hear it start? He goes, no, I didn't. I just, and I said, what was that? And I turned and I looked at my friend Shane. And I said, Shane, what was that? And he goes, huh, yeah, what is that?
Oh, wow.
So it goes, whoa. And I looked around and I said, where'd that come from? And Shane goes, why? And I said, I want to go find it. Because I'm thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking it's a tractor. Somebody's jacking with us, throttling that tractor up. And we sat there quietly again. And let's say I heard it the first time at my 1 o'clock. When it did it again, it was at my 4 o'clock. And the second time it went, whoa, I took off running to where the sound was coming from. Just in that direction. It was it was an opening grass area inside where the tree line started. And I couldn't get through there real fast, but I would go that direction, just moving, trying to get, because I was going to find that whatever was throttling up. And when I would get close to where I thought it was coming from, it would die down again, and then it would do it from opposite, like at a 360-degree circle. It was getting to another spot really fast, faster than a person could have. And looking back now, it was trying to scare us off. That's what the tree break was. That's what the roar was. And my dumb ass is running, trying to find it. And I was sitting there thinking, man, now looking back on it, I'm like, man, I bet this thing was like, what the hell is wrong with this kid?
Crazy humans.
He's an idiot. Huh?
Crazy humans.
I would have done the same thing.
Huh?
I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to scare him off, and this moron keeps running to where I'm at. And then, honestly, I'd probably still do it, even though I know what it is now. But we rode that day. I said, man, to hell with this. Let's go ride up on the plateau and get out of here. And I've talked to people and told them about that, and they've told me about stories about like vehicles getting tore up in that area, tree limbs getting thrown into the windshields of the people's car.
Wow.
That live on that road that took us to that place. But that place was completely primitive, like it was. The farmhouses and stuff were still all together. The barns still had all the old farm implements hanging from the rafters, on that place. It was like stepping back in time.
Wow, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I pulled up one day and we went out there probably 5 or 6 times on the 4-wheelers because I knew it wasn't going to be like that very much longer. When the older people started dying off on that side of the family, everything's going to get chopped up and sold.
Yep.
And the last day we rode out there, we didn't know the land had been sold. We knew where the key was still hid, to get in on it. And I remember coming over the hill, just couldn't wait to look at the old house and the farm and everything. And everything had been dozed up and cleared out. Yeah. You talk about a buzzkill.
That's horrible.
And I thought about like Dances with Wolves, where he goes, "Oh, you want to go fight Indians?" He goes, "No, I just want to see this place before, white man comes and takes it over." That's kind of what that place was to me. And let's see, probably a year after that, I had told an older friend of mine, he's probably 7 or 8 years older than me, and I'd asked him, "Hey man, because this guy always loved to find old homesteads and look for coins. You know how old people used to bury their money."
Yep.
And his deal was, man, he would go to these old homesteads, and he was very respectful as far as he didn't ever touch anything in the house. He had a metal detector out there going through the yard. Looking. That's what he was looking for. If he was there, he said, "If ever I steal anything, the first thing I'm going to steal, if I find those gold Confederate coins, they're mine." Well, this guy had got to know a girl whose family owned a lot of land right on the Red River. Just from a mile from north of the shoreline all the way to the shoreline, they had this land, but there was all these old farmsteads and homesteads on the river that are just like stepping back in time. The real thick, small trees that grow around it keep the grass from growing up and getting, no grass hardly grows around those homesteads. And that's how you can tell where a homestead's been. I can't think of what kind of trees they are, but they're real small and they're real bunched together. They grow thick. But if you ride around in the country, that's how you spot an old homestead, is those trees, those real small trees for some reason.
Wow.
Well, this girl told him, "My family owns this land down there." So this girl told him, "There's houses and all kinds of old farms and stuff down there." And he said, "Can you take me to them?" And she said, "Yeah." Well, they went at night. And he said he found this homestead right along the bank, like just a little bit north of the bank. And he said it was a little cabin. And back in the old days, they would clear out a little circle and put a bench right there. What did they call that thing? An arbor?
Oh yeah, right.
They'd sit in, huh?
Yes, I believe so.
An arbor or arboretum or something like that. But what it was, they'd clear all the trees out to where the sun would shine down in that one spot. They would put rocks and stuff in the ground and put a bench right there. And that's where you sat and read and you had sunlight or moonlight. He said when he walked in, the moonlight was shining down on this little spot. And he thought, "Man, that's cool looking." He went over to the house, starts running his little metal detector, and he goes all around the house and stuff. And he said he peeped into the house, looked around. He said, "Cole, there wasn't even any dust on the counters. Like there wasn't any rodent droppings on the counters. The place
Really?
still looked lived in. But he said, but it had the feel that no one lived there, which was really odd.
That's strange.
And yeah. And I said, dude, if that place, like if there was no rat droppings on the counters or something, someone still goes and checks on that place and cleans it up a little bit. And he said, when I walked out of the cabin that night, he said, I looked to my left to where that little arboretum, whatever that thing is. He said, and I saw something laying on the bench of that little bench that they had set in there. And he goes, Cole, it was a set of lungs.
What? Set of lungs?
Of lungs. Big lungs. Like a cow's lungs or maybe a deer or an elk. And I said, I said, were they human? He goes, no, they were too big to be human. I said, well, did you go look at them? He said, hell no, I didn't go look at them. Cory, they were still steaming.
Oh.
Like they had just been cut out of the animal.
Wow.
And, I mean, I couldn't believe this guy was telling us. And you could see the look on his face. He was telling the truth. I mean, fear is pretty easy. Real fear is pretty easy when someone's thinking about something they seen a long time ago. I said, what'd you do? And he goes, I got the hell out of there. And I said, are you sure? He goes, Cory, steam was coming off of them. Like they were still body temperature. And I said, why don't you go look at him? And he goes, are you serious? I said, yeah, that's probably, I would have avoided that too, you know. I said, especially if they were steaming. But he said, I got the hell out of there. And I said, you ain't been back? And he goes, what, are you crazy? But after that, he told me about a green orb getting after him and another guy one night.
Oh, wow.
And they had to lock herself in an old shed at a homestead. And he said that thing was shaking the shed, and you could see it in the cracks between the wood. He said they were holding the door, and something was pulling on the door, and he said it was a green, glowing ball.
Oh, wow.
And he said it was so bright, it was shooting through the separation of the wood into the shed. And he said it went around it, and he said wherever it was at, you could feel it shaking the shed. And he said it went around the shed a few times, and then they just kind of seen it dissipate and dim out. And I said, what'd you do? He said, oh, we sat in there for a while just to make sure it was gone. And I said, what'd y'all do? He said, as soon as we felt like it was safe, we got the hell out of there and ran all the way to the pickup. But he said, whatever that was, it was trying to get in that shed.
Oh, my.
Yeah. This is the same dude that told me the lung story. He told me this story right after that.
Wow.
Yeah. So
now, in your junkyard or your salvage yard, you actually have seen physical things also with your eyes, or just hearing things?
Oh yeah, there's lots of orb activity over there.
A lot of orbs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's what I was kind of wondering.
Okay, so fast forward. I'm doing all this in order that I remember.
All
fast forward. Okay, so I'm getting the greenhouse ready by myself, and I don't have anybody else out here, which is the first time I ever enjoyed this kind of lifestyle. You know, it wasn't hustle and bustle, 15 people working out here and my dad in a bad mood. You know, it was just me growing my thing. And I was getting the house ready, getting the greenhouse ready, and I was setting this up different than they had ever done this. I've done a lot of homework, and I was moving gravel into the greenhouse. I tore out all the metal tables, and I was moving gravel in, and I humped it because I was going to cover it with a white tarp to get maximum reflection for when I start growing cannabis. And it's real hot. It's the summertime. And what I would do is I wouldn't go out and start working until about 7 or 8 o'clock. And the greenhouse is a hoop house. It still had its old plastic on it. but the side plastic was cut off at about the 3-foot line on the sides.
Okay.
And I took a drop light in there, floodlight, and I would go out there and I was raking the ground. And what I did, I humped it like a football field. So I'm in there raking and I'm working by myself. And I'd go in probably I'm going to say an hour after sun up. So I'm out there working. And this is after the rain had filled everything back up. And it's a quiet night. The wind's not blowing at all. But it's a little warm. And I'm out there raking. And all of a sudden I hear cars, like car doors shutting and closing in the salvage yard. And little kids laughing. And something is throwing pebbles on top of the greenhouse. And go. And I see them fall on the sides because I've got the side plastic cut off of it. But at first I thought it was June bugs trying to get in the hair. You know how you light up something, they'll try to get through get into the light? I thought they were popping the plastic trying to get into where I was. Until I saw the pebbles fall from the side where I had the plastic cut off. Well, I immediately think it's Jeremy, my best friend out there. I didn't hear him pull up, and I'm thinking he's messing with me. So I keep working like I'm, like I don't hear it. And then I drop the rake and run outside. There's nobody out there.
Oh.
And then I heard the little kids laugh again.
Wow.
I turned, I looked at the salvage yard. I sat there, and I heard the car doors opening and close, like they were out there playing.
Right.
And I thought, I'm just going to ignore it, and I'm going to go back in and go to work. Walked back in, picked up my rake, and I started raking again. And about less than a minute later, something poked me on my leg.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm wearing shorts. And it felt like a little kid came up and went boop, in my calf. And when I jumped, and there's no one there. There's no one who could have snuck in and done that and got out in time. And then I hear the little kids laughing again.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I thought, man, I need to just go in and call it a night.
Now, are you currently still hearing these kids, or just?
Huh?
Are you currently still hearing these kids laughing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
I've got to where I've got to where I can tell when it's going to happen.
So I'm assuming there was a bad car accident with children in it.
Possibly.
Oh,
Or it could be something trying to make me think it's a little kid spirit.
That too.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that too.
But there wasn't no like old one-room schoolhouses or playgrounds or nothing for kids out there anywhere around?
No. But Temple Masonic Cemetery sits a quarter mile
to
the west of it. Okay? But the thing is, my friend Jeremy worked for us for almost 10 years. He was out here late at night loading trucks. I said, Jeremy, was any of this going on? And we just did you notice anything? He goes, Cole, it wasn't like this out here at night back then. And he could feel stuff too. Well, he's into this kite boarding where you've got a kite and then you ride a wakeboard.
Right.
And it pulls you around the lake and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, he got into it, so he was going to make his own to learn how all this worked. Well, he would come out here at night and practice his kite board because there's no power lines and stuff out here. And there's been a couple of times he almost got snatched by the wind into the salvage yard, snatched up off the ground. But you connect yourself with a cable to this thing and fly it up, and he's out here learning to control it. And he's always out here at night. So I'm sitting here at my desk, and he sticks his head into here, and he goes, "Are you messing with me?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "I'm going to the house." And I said, "What's up?" And he goes, "Nothing." And I said, "What's up? We've seen enough stuff together. What's up?" He goes, "You ever hear little kids laughing out here at night?"
Oh.
And I said, "Yeah." I said, one of them come up and poked me in the leg one night when I was working out in the greenhouse. And he goes, and you're just telling me this now. And I said, I thought it'd be better for you to find out for yourself, because that way I know I'm not going crazy. And I said, I can tell where they are. He goes, really? Now this is the guy that was with me at the cemetery.
Okay.
He goes, really? Come out here and show me. I said, all right. I got up and walked outside, and we stepped through my sliding doors at my shop. My house is built inside the shop. Parked through the doors, and I turned and looked to the southeast, and I said, they're right there. And he goes, I'm going home. That's where the laughing is coming from. And I said, dude, why are you freaking out? You know, all this stuff we've seen together, this stuff shouldn't bother you. And he goes, well, I think you'd tell me if something. He goes, if something poked me on the leg, I would have told you about it. And I said, I'm sorry. You know? I said, but it's now we know. You know, if you heard it and I never mentioned a word to it, we know now. And that's when the orb activity started at about this time. So my daughter had a puppy, got a puppy that she couldn't take care of. So I was raising it, and it was a beautiful little female Alaskan pit bull. These things are beautiful, just an ornery female. And she wanted out one night, and I let her out, and we both walked out together through my shop. And right when we hit the ramp, going out the doors, hackles. I mean, her hair stood straight up, and she turned and looked at the salvage yard right there south of me and started growling like a big dog. And I looked at her, and I thought, what the hell? And I looked over there, and there's these orb lights moving around just on the other side of the fence. And I know every light reflection on that place. I've looked. I can tell you what time of year. There's some times a year that only one light will reflect off a windshield out there. The rest of them won't have light reflection.
Really?
Yeah, I know. It's the weather, the time of the year, where you're standing. But I've learned every explainable light out there. I can tell you whether it's explainable or not just looking out there. I can tell you just like that. I did a lot of homework and paying attention to everything. I know these aren't regular looking lights, and they're moving around, but they're really bright. But man, Chloe, that puppy, jumped on the tongue of a flatbed trailer I had sitting there and just mean mugged them. And she'd be going. I said, calm down. And I looked over there and I said, I see you. Just like that. And I watched two of those orbs stay side by side. The guy at the salvage yard has an old barn over there. That's where I seen the orbs, right next to the barn. And I watched these two orbs out of all these other ones. I watched them, and they stayed together, and they scooted all the way down the side of that barn from my left to right.
Wow.
And they stopped together, and then I watched them go and lower and hold right there. It was almost like they were something's eyes that floated across, and when it stopped, they just kind of squatted and settled down.
Yeah.
But when I acknowledged them is when I got, I saw this. And let's see, one night I heard something grunting over there, and the salvage yard's got a big trash can that's got lids on it, and I'm going to say where the door's shut like this, it's it's a big one. It's probably about the 4-foot line. All right. So it would come up to about, right at my sternum, height-wise. And I'm hearing something over there, and I thought it was wild pigs. I used to raise show pigs out of show pig operation. I know what a pig sounds like when it's rooting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all I had was my cell phone flashlight, and I started walking over there, and I'm looking, and you know, you got to watch yourself with wild pigs. They're dangerous.
Right.
There's no wild pigs over there. They usually run in large groups. They usually leave crap everywhere or make a mess. There's no sign of any pigs over there, but I'm still hearing them. And I'm thinking, where the hell is that coming from? And the closer I got to it, the better I could hear it. And all of a sudden, I stopped in my tracks because that big blue trash can was moving. Like, whatever that was in there.
Oh, really?
In that trash can. Yeah. Yeah. There wasn't any trash spilled on the ground. Nothing. And I really didn't know about Dogman at this time, but that little conscious voice in my head told me to stop. And I lowered my phone and I just backed away and come back in the house. But looking back on it, you know, in hindsight, probably a Dogman or a Sasquatch in there chowing on something. Because everybody in town comes and throws their trash out there and uses the salvage yard's trash can. I see townspeople all the time do it. So, like food in there or whatever. But the next day I went and looked, no mess, nothing had been spilled out of it, you know. No pig scat on the ground. And, you know, it just whenever I've had that conscious voice tell me to get away twice like that, and that's one of them. Right around the time that we had the Sasquatch growling at me that I was running to look at, about that time, I bought a new metal detector, and this was a Garrett, and it would tell you what's under the ground on a digital readout. Okay?
Right. Yep.
This thing worked. I'd go out and I'd experimented with it. I'd bury money. I'd bury pop tabs, everything. And I'd go out and it would read exactly what I'd buried in the ground. It was very accurate.
Cool.
Okay. There's some property right west of town on the highway, and I knew the owner of the property. And there's a creek that runs through there. And it was dry at the time, and I was going to get my metal detector to go down in that creek and walk the creek going north and come out and take the trail back to my pickup. I was familiar with this spot. It was a gravel pit that the county had contracted and dug out. We had our prom party in that thing when I was a senior. There was fire going inside it and everything. But the property owner was an old Native American man named Matt Tosi. And he told me we could do that as long as I cleaned it up after that and got all the beer cans and beer bottles out. And I said, deal. You know, he was contributing to a minor a lot with me before I was 21. But he would just sit and we would drink beer with him and talk to him. He was a retired engineer at Boeing, real smart guy. But that land that's some heavy Native American property right there. So I'm in my early 20s when I get this metal detector, and I'm coming up the creek, and it's brand new. And all of a sudden, y'all, it just starts going haywire. And all the reading on it starts showing up everything. Pop tabs, gold, silver. It was just going crazy, but it was reading everything on the digital readout that could have been under. And man, when I seen gold light up, I was like, woo! And then all of a sudden, it was just going, and I was like, what the hell? And I would move it around and it would keep doing it. And I thought, damn, I just bought this thing. And I turned it off and I come climbing out of the creek bank. And y'all, I think I know one of the reasons that people disappear in portals.
Really?
Yes. That's why my metal detector was going off. And I didn't see it. I walked right up to the property, rose up, and there was an old barbed wire fence, and it probably, you know how the old abandoned fences. They're not very tall. The grass has grown up so much around. They look short, but it was right on a rise on the property. And y'all, I knew those gravel pits were back there.
Yeah.
Not then. In my mind, I didn't know what was on the other side of that fence line. It had almost hypnotized me or had me in some type of trance. And I sat my metal detector down, and I remember being curious. But the sound was a woof, 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 woof. And I could feel it in my eyes, too.
Oh, wow.
It affected my eyes. I could feel the vibration in my eyes. And in my mind, I didn't know what the hell was on the other side of that fence at this moment. I think that's how people come up, disappear. It takes over your mind, and it makes you like a curious little kid.
Right.
I felt it.
Because a lot of people who have survived stuff like that, they talk about like Crater Lake, where they'll just be walking along the trail, and all of a sudden they just have this desire to walk over the edge and go down in the Crater Lake, and they end up drowning or become missing or whatever. It's like just like you said, it's like somebody took over your mind, and it's like you have a will just to go in there.
Yeah. And but I'm telling you, your eyes are a part of your brain. It's the only part of your brain that's exposed. But your eyes connect directly into your brain. Well, it was going whoop, 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 and I don't know. It's hard to explain what I felt that day, but I remember going, and I kept walking and walking. But I knew those gravel pits were there, but at this time, I had completely, in my mind, I didn't know what the hell was on the other side of that thing. It had a hold of me.
Wow.
And when I got up to the fence and just started to peep over, I don't know if I'll say it was a conscious voice, like a conscience, where I didn't hear it say this, but something in my mind told me to stop.
Okay.
And it said, "Hey," and I kind of snapped out of it. And in my mind, I heard, "Turn around, get your metal detector, and go the way you came."
Wow.
Like I said, I could have heard it say it, but I think it was just my conscience snapping me out of it. I don't think it was anything that, hell, I don't know. It could have been somebody helping me out. But I had a friend who was cutting some hay down there by the highway. And when I come walking back, he goes, "Did you find anything?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "What's wrong with your eyes?" And I said, "Yeah, you wouldn't believe me if I told you." And he goes, "Dude, you go look at your eyes, right? Go look in the mirror. Get my pickup and go look at yourself."
Were they dilated?
And I was like, "No, I'm good." And that metal detector had worked just fine before and after that. That's the only time it ever, acted up and malfunctioned. Wow. I think that portal was causing my metal detector to do that when I got close enough to it.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, Jane had her camera go crazy and wouldn't work anymore after she was trying to film a portal.
This was an ATN night vision binoculars. If you know about those, the ATN night vision.
Yeah.
And I did see everybody, if they've seen our property on our 24/7, there's a tree line along the field. And so I'm always filming over there, checking out orbs and stuff. I saw this square, and it was glitchy, kind of like a matrix glitchy, moving very slow along the tree lines. I was getting ready to hit record. That fried out our ATN night vision binoculars. We couldn't turn them on. We sent them into the company. They didn't know what was wrong. Luckily, they had an old model still, and they sent us a new one because I don't like the new models. This was one of the older models, and it fried out my ATN binoculars, and they're expensive. And I was
Did
not.
they ever call you and tell you what was wrong with them, or?
They said they could not fix them. They just sent us a new pair.
They were just dead.
Yeah.
So it
Either that or
I saw
they,
it.
either that or they retrieved the
Big. It
footage
was a
off of
big
it and didn't want
square.
to tell us.
Yeah, it was a big square moving along.
So the portal was moving?
It was moving. You can see it moving slow along that tree line over there. And I was trying to record it because I was already filming a bunch of orbs and stuff, and it just fried it out, and we could not turn them on.
Because the weird thing about portals is that there's different kinds. You have mobile portals, like Jane was saying, it moves. It's never in the same area all the time. You have a fixed portal that can be turned on and off, so it's going to be in the exact same location every single time. And then you got ones that just pop in, pop out wherever random.
And even when I saw orbs, I could see, some movement and stuff in orbs.
Hey, I'm gonna let my dog out right quick. I can still hear y'all. Go ahead.
Go ahead. We'll talk to the chat.
So yeah, that
Okay.
where it just looked like a matrix glitch, and you can just see a bunch of movement. Totally different looking than when I was recording orbs.
A Bigfoot dwarf said his son almost went over the edge or the rim at Crater Lake when they were trying to cross country ski. I've read so many stories and heard so many people talk about whether it's woods or like Crater Lake, where people end up being the 411 missing. That not that they necessarily hear a voice calling them, they just have that will, like something's taking them over, like Cory was saying, and they just have that. They don't have a will to fight it. It's just like that's their intention. They just need to go there, whether it's the woods, whether it's Crater Lake.
It's really hard to explain. It took me, man, the puzzle pieces sometimes will still fall into place this day for something that happened 30 years ago.
Right.
Like, I honestly believe if I'd have peeped over that little edge, that's probably the last time anybody would have heard from me. I'd be one of the missing 411 mysteries.
Wow.
Honestly, you know what it made me think of? It made me think of like the old Vietnam movies, like Platoon at the very end, where the choppers come in to rescue him, and it slows the sound down of whew,
right.
Whew, whew. That's what I heard that day. And whenever it would go, whew, it would vibrate my eyes. And like I said, your eyes are part of your brain. I think it gets a hold of you somehow, because I should have known those gravel pits were on the other side of that fence that day. And I had completely forgotten. I didn't know kind of where I was, actually. Yeah. It had me.
Yeah, because there's a lot of I read a lot of glitch in the matrix kind of stories that people are talking about, and a lot of stuff they talk about is when everything goes silent. Like if you're on a trail and you hear the birds and the wildlife and the wind rustling, and all of a sudden there's nothing. Some people even report where they see like a bird flying. Then as soon as it goes quiet, it's almost like that bird's just not moving anymore. They've seen that.
Like it hangs in the air?
Yes.
Like I said, I was down in a creek. My metal detector is the reason I walked up out of the creek bed. And when I came up out of the creek bed and got above, ground level, because I was below it, I started hearing the woof, 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 and I thought, I remember setting my metal detector down and just walking towards it. And it probably took me probably a minute to get to where where the fence line was. But in my mind, I had no recollection of what was on the other side of that fence. And hell, we had a party there. But I want to tell y'all something. This is another piece of the puzzle that fell back in of something that happened when we had that party there. I promised Matt Tosi that I would go out and there wouldn't be any beer bottles or beer cans or anything left in that gravel pit.
Right.
There's 2 gravel pits. They started to dig one on the east side of where the the west one is, and stopped and moved back west and dug another one there. Well, at that party that night, you know, people are always throwing beer bottles and shit. And I was in there cleaning that pit up, and I had a girl with me who was kind of into the paranormal stuff, but I thought she's just a goofy hippie chick, you know, at the time. And she was sitting in the back of my pickup, and I pulled down into that gravel pit, and I'm sitting there throwing bottles. I got a 55-gallon drum in the back of my pickup, and I'm throwing bottles and cans in there. And she's got a lawn chair sitting in the back just talking to me. And I said, hey, I'm going to step over here to this other side. I think I saw people throwing beer bottles and stuff over there. So I go over the hill between the two gravel pits, and I'm seeing beer bottles and stuff laying over there. So I just take them and I start tossing them over the you know, the wall, the dirt wall in between the two. And I said, stay where you are. I don't want to hit you with one, you know, because I couldn't see over to the other gravel pit. I was just throwing them.
Right.
And all of a sudden I heard her go, Cory, get back over here. And I said, I told Matt I would clean up these bottles. And she got upset. And she said, I said, get back over here right now. And I said, what's wrong with you? And she goes, get back over here. And I climbed up out there and I walked over and I said, what? And she goes, I don't like you over there. Stay here.
Oh, what was going on?
Honestly, Geryl, I didn't need that memory come back to me 20-something years later. That's where I think that portal was that day.
Oh, okay.
But she had this was after the prom party in 1991, and the incident happened in 1996, 97 with the portal deal. It'd been that long. But I thought back about it, and I was like, man, and I thought, man, why did she throw a fit she was sensitive to that spot. You know, and when it all hit, like I said, the puzzle pieces fall into place years later. If a stranger walked up to me and said something strange to me somewhere, like at a fair or something like that, and it didn't make sense, man, I'll log it. Because one of these days something might happen that might correlate with, you know, an incident that happened that most people wouldn't even think about again.
Right. You know, in my mind, when you were telling me that she yelled at you to come over there, I thought when you were throwing the bottles, they were disappearing. They were disappearing on the other side, but they weren't making it through.
You know, I could tell she was so upset I wasn't going to argue with her, and I kind of got my ass chewed about not cleaning up the beer bottles over on that other side when I saw Matt, because I said, "Hey, man, did you go out and look at it?" He goes, yeah, you forgot some. And I said, about that. Man, the girl that was with me started yelling at me about going over there. And he goes, yeah, well, I went and picked him up, man. And I said, Matt, I'm sorry. I said, she started tripping. You know, once I got back over there, she was just fine.
Huh.
She goes, I don't like you over there. And I thought, well, that's weird. Log it.
What kind of gifts does she have? Has she ever had anything like that since?
She moved away. I haven't even seen her.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, I think about her all the time. I actually looked her up when Facebook, you know, I permanently deleted my Facebook account almost 10 years ago, and it was one of the best things I ever did. And I will never get back on that thing ever again.
I understand.
It improved the quality of my life instantly.
Wow.
I felt better about everything after I did that.
Oh, there's times I did deactivate and just take a break. And there's one time I was off for about a year. You know, I didn't want to delete the pictures and stuff, but I would deactivate and just get away from it.
I did a permanent deletion, and it told me that it would take like a year or two to get everything off of it, you know. But what they're doing, they're just trying to lure you back in, giving you
right.
I never answered any of and it was because I felt so much better after I did it. That there's a darkness to it, y'all. And it's genuine. Like, it was good before everybody got on there. Like, it's kind of like a restaurant where they say, nobody goes there anymore. Why not? It's too crowded.
Yep.
I get that.
Yeah, that's what happens when you live in small town life, and all of a sudden a good restaurant or something happens, and all of a sudden everybody starts flocking there and ruins the whole thing. The reason they come there,
Yeah.
they ruin it.
Yeah, and I get it. You kind of like it's your little secret, but okay, so years later, when Google Earth comes out, and it was the first version of it. I think actually at the time it was called Terra Server.
Yes.
And it was, you know what I'm talking? Yeah, you're farmer.
Yep.
So I get on Terra Server, and I'm scoping out everything. And my friend Clinton, the one that was with me at the cemetery, one of the guys that was with me at the cemetery that night, said, "Hey man, they got a better deal than Terra Server now. It's Google Earth." And I said, I'll check it out sometime. So this is right when Google Earth comes out, and I just happened to be browsing through there one day, and my house, my old place before I sold it, my house just sat right down the highway from those gravel pits.
Oh.
Less than 5 miles. And I thought, man, I need to look at those. And I got over them on the first Google Earth, and those freaking gravel pits are blurred out.
Really?
Oh.
Yes. Blurred out.
Huh. That's a main sign.
See how I talk about the pieces all coming together?
Yeah.
And I've had people go, man, you're Cory, like, what? How do you remember stuff like that? And I said, it's just how my brain works. I don't, I think it's supposed to work like that because of this. I mean, this stuff chose me. I didn't choose it. All this stuff happened. I wasn't out looking for it. I didn't even believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that a lot of things that, like on Google Earth, I don't think it's necessarily Google Earth. I don't necessarily think it's our government trying to blur things out. I think a lot of times it's the radiation, their EMFs or whatever won't let their satellites view that area. It won't let it penetrate those energy waves.
Mm-hmm. And when I got down on the Red River and started scoping to the east, and I went all the way to Brown Springs, where Texas is always talking about, but there's multiple locations where I think Shepherd Air Force Base, they own that property on the Texas side of the river. They own a lot of that land on the water line, on the ridge line.
Oh.
Yeah. And they got a lot of stuff blurred out, but it's usually rectangular blurred out spots. So I figure it's structures or something like that.
You got to compare the blurring to see if it's man blurring it out, or the gravel pit looks like a different blur that would be something natural, like Geryl said.
The
difference on Google Earth.
The blur of the gravel pit was round.
Round.
Oh.
Yeah. Just like the shape of the pit when they dug it out. They would dig almost because they would come in down through the center, and then they would start raking the corners out, Yeah.
Because when Google Earth or NASA or anybody blurs anything out, it's always black squares.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. It's got corners.
Oh,
90 degree. And, like they say, that's not a natural occurring thing. So, but
yeah. So if you see odd shaped blurring on Google Earth, might be a hot spot to go check out.
Is that almost like Pokemon Go?
The gravel pits would probably be the last place I would go check out at this point.
Yeah.
So your metal detector that time was acting like an EMF meter then.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, man, I even went home and took it apart and started looking for loose wires. I mean, because no matter what, I'm looking for a logical explanation to any crazy stuff. That's the first thing I do. because if you eliminate all of those, you know what's left. You know, and I'm not one of those guys that sees everything and think it's paranormal or supernatural. I don't want to be that person.
Right.
Right.
Try to debunk what you can.
I try to debunk myself.
Yes, we do too.
And
Yeah.
actually, I'm more thorough debunking myself than I am anybody else, because it's that important to me that I do that, because I don't want to be made a fool of when someone goes, we figured out what that was. You know,
Right.
we went out there and figured it out ourselves. And, you know, I just, like a guy a friend of mine come out here one night, and I was telling him about this, and he was going, Cole, you expect me to believe that crap? And I said, like I told y'all, I can tell when it's going to happen. It's the air's charged different. There's a heavy thickness to the atmosphere when it's going to be active. I learned that the night my puppy was growling at the orbs over there.
Wow.
But that night with the puppy, I called my friend Jeremy and I said, hey, you busy? And he goes, no. I said, come out. I said, don't stay outside. Come directly in. I want to tell you something. When he got here, he hit my front door and he goes, dude, what the hell is that over there? And I said, man, I thought I told you to come straight in. He goes, I did, Cory. I felt it when I got out of the truck. And, okay, so one night, this is the picture I sent you. One night, Jeremy comes in, my friend, my paranormal investigation buddy, who really, we never even talked about being paranormal investigators. It just shit happens with me and him. It happens individually, but when we get together, which is all the time, this stuff kicks into hyper mode. I mean, but he come in, and that night we had the cemetery incident. He had kind of a pale face to him, like, you know what I'm talking about, the shock look.
Right.
Where, so, you know, all the blood leaves the head and everything. He come in and he had that same look when he came in one night. And I said, did you see a ghost? He goes, I wish. And I said, what happened? He goes, you're not going to believe me. I said, stop saying that. At this point in time, dude, I'm not going to doubt anything you tell me. We've been through too much together. But hell, I still do it too. You know, it's just instinctively built in us to think, you know, someone's going to call you crazy or point the finger at you, or, you know. But he told me, he said, man, I was outside working in front of my house under the carport, and his wife is the one that parks her car under the carport. She's got a Z28 Camaro. She's a pharmacist, and she's got this nice Z28, and he's out there like welding on something or working on something. And he said when he flipped his hood up, his welding hood, he saw something jump or fly out of the tree that sits in front of his front door. And there's a what do you call that? A lattice where the vines and stuff grow up in the in front of the front door of his house. And there's a big old, I mean, this thing it's got to be old, double tree. It's two tree trunks coming out, and then they separate at about probably 4 or 5 foot line. Big, heavy limb.
Right.
He said he saw something either jump or fly out of that tree, and it flew across the hood of his wife's car and landed right there to his right, about 6 feet from him.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And he said, Cole, it was a gremlin with wings.
You said that's one of the pictures?
Yeah. The diagram one where I got arrows pointing to it and everything.
Oh, okay.
I sent you one without that and then one with the arrows to it. But okay, so I said, okay, tell me describe everything you see. I said, tell me you got a picture of it. He said, I had my phone with me. He's got an iPhone, so they got really nice video cameras and picture cameras on.
Oh, wow.
Okay. We would have lost that picture had I sent it to a friend of mine. I call her my medicine woman, And she said, where are its ears? And I said, outline where you think its ears are and send the picture back to me. That's why it's got the outline of the ears. Okay.
Okay.
This thing was sending out interference. He tried to get it on video and it was scrambling his iPhone. Like he said, it looked like static from an old TV when you put them on UHF back in the day. He said that's what the screen was doing when he was trying to get video of it. He said it had wings on its back and it had hands separate from the wings, and it had a squirrel or a rat in its hands eating it like it was pulling on a piece of taffy. You know? And he said it had backlit, glowing, corona-colored eyes. It had skin hanging off its corners of its mouth like a mustache, but it was skin. He said it had a crooked neck. And I said, what'd it do? He said it laughed at me. He said, Cory, it stayed there for about 5 minutes or longer.
Wow.
And I said, dude, tell me you got something. And he said, I switched my iPhone over to photo camera. He said, I took some pictures of it, but they need to be cleaned up. This is the clean, after his son ran it through the cleanup on the laptop, this is what we got. So if anyone thinks, well, you can't even really see anything, you got to understand, this thing could put off some type of interference that would scramble that phone. And this is the best we could get out of it. But if you'll look close, do you have the one with the diagram on it?
Yes.
Can you pop it up? Okay. I've got the slit pupil on the white arrow pointing to it.
Yep.
I've got the nostrils on the red on the side to the left of it, and I've got them pointing directly at the nostrils. Now, this thing hanging off its lip looks like it's a tooth or something, but he said that's the skin hanging off of it.
All right.
Okay. Now, I said, dude, how come you didn't get back from it? And he said, Cory, it was right on me. It was less than 5 feet from me. But if you look, you can see where its wings are coming off its back. You can barely see where the nodes attach. And I started doing research on it, and these wings evidently attach like an insect's wings would. It's not like a bat.
Wow.
He said that he was so close to it, he couldn't, and plus it was throwing out that interference. But he said it laughed at him.
That does look like an eyeball right there. I see that.
It is. That's the slit pupil.
But I thought those were either toes or fingertips, not an ear. So now I'm seeing it differently. Okay.
Yeah. He said it had big floppy ears. Oh, I should have sent you. He's an artist, and I had him draw a picture of what he saw that night.
Looks like a
That's
reptilian.
what I forgot. I forgot to send it to you. But I told him, I said, huh?
When you sent this to me, it brought me right back to the old gargoyle movie.
That's what we thought.
Wow.
Hey, and guys, we went through and did research for about a week over what this could have been. You know, an existing animal or bat or something like that. And the closest thing we could find to it, which wasn't even close, it just kind of resembled the size and everything, was a hammerhead bat.
Oh, a bat, yeah.
Yeah, but the hammerhead bats, their arms are in their wings, just like a regular bat. You know, they have, but it's connected. This thing had its wings separate from its arms.
Wow.
Like a Mothman or...
Yeah, like an insect. He said that. He said, Cory, it had the wings on its back, and if you look at the picture, you can see where the wings attach to the back on the thing. You just can't see the wings.
Right.
But man, we tried to debunk ourselves for a week. I mean, I'd go, did you find anything? And he'd go, man, I found one thing this, couldn't. And the hammerhead bat doesn't have the slit pupils. Okay. It's got round. Its arms are in the wings. It sort of resembles it, head shape and everything, but this thing came back during the wintertime during an ice storm. So it's not a hammerhead bat.
Right. Yep.
But I had a friend of mine who I was sitting in my, and he sat down in my bedroom one day. I got a couch in my bedroom, and I had a couple of people over, and I was showing them this picture that you just showed, and he's over there going, "Dude, shut up! You're crazy." You know, and there's no way. Well, everybody left, and it was just me and him left in there, and this shit don't bother me anymore. You know, everybody else left, and me and him were sitting there, just me and him after that. And he goes, "I've seen one of those things."
Oh.
And I said, "Really? Why was you making fun of me earlier?" And he goes, "Because I don't want everybody to think I'm crazy."
Yep.
And you know, normally, like you would get upset and go, "You son of a bitch!" But at this point, all I want to know is where did you see it? He goes, "You've seen them, you just don't know it."
Oh.
And I said, "All right." He goes, when you plow at night, and I've plowed for this guy at night on his tractor, you know, and everybody loves to plow at night around here. I don't know, it makes you look like you're a hard worker or something like that. It's easy money, and the air conditioner blows high and full, you know, it's stuck on high, which I love.
Right.
But when you plow at night, Geryl, I know you're a farmer, so you'll understand this. You've got owls that'll come down because you're pulling up the varmints and stuff, the rats and field mice and stuff, and they'll hunt with the tractor, right? I remember plowing, I don't know how many times, and watching these owls swoop down, but every now and then an odd one would come through, but they'd come by so quick, and I'd go, "Man, that was a weird looking owl," you know? It just was you only see them for a split second. They hunt with those owls. That's those gremlins coming in every now and then.
Oh, wow.
And snatching up a field rat. So if you plow at night, I bet you start paying attention a little closer. But, you know, I said, "I'll be damned." He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "You need some better lights on your tractor, you know."
Rear lights, front lights.
Well, yeah, because I want to catch a video of one of these things, but you know, like I said, they can interfere with the camera, just like I know they had the ability because it did it with Jeremy.
Some of the new tractors have IR cameras on them, and even the heat sensitive ones.
Also, he said this thing smelled like.
Imagine that.
Tractor GoPro.
Hey, I've got a buddy that's got all that, and I said, "Dude, we need to catch one of these." And he goes, "I don't want to mess with it." I said, "You are a coward." He goes, I'm a coward, dude. So he goes, "I don't want to start messing with this stuff because I don't want it messing with me."
Right.
But those old World War I and World War II bomber pilots that talked about the flying gremlins,
yeah,
they're telling the truth.
And the gremlins,
they're telling the truth. There's no doubt about it. I mean, hell, I just showed you a picture of one. You know,
right?
These things have a supernatural aspect to them. Y'all know who William Nighthawk is, right?
Yeah, yeah, I know William.
Okay. Well, I talked to him about it, and he said, "Cory, who took this picture?" You know, I said, "My friend did," and he goes, "You sure it wasn't you?" And you're just saying it. You know how people will go, "Well, my friend did this," you know, because they don't want anybody to think
asking for a friend.
I said,
"Right,
yeah, my friend wants to know." And I said, "No, it was Jeremy that took the picture," and he goes, "Okay, I'm not judging anyone's lifestyle or anything, but if this wasn't you, if it was you, you need to listen to this. But if it wasn't," I said, "If it was me, William, I'd tell you it was me." He goes, "Okay, he probably needs to start getting his life getting his life in order a little bit."
Uh-oh. Angel of death?
No, it's a mischief, it's mischievous, but it's letting you know you need to straighten up.
Oh.
Hey, and that thing was right. He did need to straighten up.
Well, they always say Mothman's like a harbinger, so maybe that's what it kind of is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
William said this is more of a mischievous, like not a death warning, but just something that tells you, hey, you better quit doing what you do.
Maybe it's
You know?
like it's like the little imps that you hear about.
Yeah.
Maybe they sent their little minions in.
Yeah, or maybe it's mama or daddy was hanging around watching too.
Oh,
You know,
right.
but he said it had a real musty smell, like an old cellar that leaks water.
Mm.
Oh,
Uh,
smell of death.
and William said, "Has it been back?" And I said, "Yeah, it's been back." On it, and he goes, "These things have the ability to control the weather to a certain extent." And I said, "That's crazy." The second time it come back, there was a little ice storm that come across the top of us. That probably wasn't, I'm going to say 10 miles across. It came right over the path of Jeremy's house where we live.
Oh,
I don't know, just a little bitty one. And he got a video of it on the porch. Man, y'all, we've lost so much evidence, so many photo evidence and stuff with our phones because we end up dropping them, breaking them, losing them. If my friend had to go back 2 years on her iPhone to find this gremlin picture because we'd lost ours.
Mm.
If it wasn't for her, I would never had to show you that. I would never had it to show you.
wow.
We've lost tons of photo evidence and stuff like that. Like his wife said, you two are hell on phones. We're always out and about doing stuff. But okay, so fast forward to I'm gonna say 4 or 5 years ago, and me and Jeremy are going arrowhead hunting. And y'all, I'm telling you, he's either lucky or he's the best artifact hunter I've ever seen. He's found some really crazy stuff. He's the one that found the fossilized giant finger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he's found way more than that. Man,
Actually,
his great granddad has found something that we didn't even tell anybody about. Huh?
Actually, there was 2 fingers that you guys found, and you have one and he has one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I told him, see, he had gotten a little bit of trouble and had to go take care of some stuff for a while. And, I thought about going over there and talking to his wife and saying, hey, I need to get this stuff so nobody throws it away,
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it'd better just to stay away from all that. But I think the other finger got thrown away.
Oh, I'd love to see photos of that. Yeah.
Man, I say that he could find it tomorrow, but
You want me?
I've got that one, so yeah, go ahead, pop it up.
Yeah, at least you still have one of them. I still,
And he might still have the other one.
and
Because when I asked him if he has something,
and how many pounds did you say this was?
What's that?
How many pounds did you say this was?
4 pounds.
Okay.
It weighs 4 pounds exactly.
And you found it in the Red River, correct?
He did. He found it in the banks, 2 of them.
I still stay at the petrified giant finger.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I sent some pictures of it to Jesus Payon,
Yeah.
which I got in contact with him through y'all's channel.
Oh yeah, nice.
And I told him about it. I think he's been on y'all's show, right?
Oh yeah.
He's been on 5 or 6 times. Yeah.
And he's coming
Okay,
on.
one of those times I communicated to him that I had this thing, and we finally got in contact. I got the right email. I don't send emails to anybody unless I absolutely know it's your email. I don't want anyone else getting these pictures,
Right.
That's the bottom side of it. And I even like will do experiments like the lens feature on my phone that identifies similar things for you. Like if you've got something, you know, take a picture of it, hit lens, and it'll search the internet for anything similar.
Right.
Well, it wouldn't identify, or it couldn't find anything similar to the picture of the whole thing. So I zoomed down close and got a good picture of just the texture of the finger. And when I hit lens and search on it, it keeps coming up with matches with diseased skin.
Oh.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What do you call that? Necro something disease, like where skin dies on living people.
Yes.
And dead people, but it brings up all kinds of skin diseases and stuff like that. That's what it so it's identifying it as flesh at one time.
Well, it does look like a fingernail, and you can see the cuticle skin and stuff around it. So.
Yeah. Jesus thinks it's a pinky toe.
Oh,
a toe.
He could be wrong.
Oh, that'd make it even bigger. Pinky
You said
toe.
a toe, not a finger?
That's, but there's no way we can. I don't want to dig. I don't want to break it or drill into it.
Right.
And I'm thinking, man, the way it's shaped and everything, it's just as possible as it being a piece of a finger.
That is true. That could be a toe. Yeah.
The left pinky toe.
Yeah, because sometimes the little toe or some of your toenails will bubble up like that, like it's almost rounded.
That's the reason he leaned towards that.
Okay.
But like I said, we don't have a giant to compare it to,
Right.
Like we don't know what their toenails and fingernails look like. And then again, what he thinks could be right, what I think could be wrong. It's just as a viable argument on each side, but the thing is, it's not really. We don't argue about which one it is. We know it's something.
Right. Tammy says you need to watermark these, so when you send them out, at least it has your friend's information on it, because you can you can take a photo and actually behind the scenes you can actually tag like your name and websites and stuff behind it. So you can also put an on-screen watermark on it, so okay, this came from us.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm really not worried about that because, I probably should, but the thing is, when I go out to make money over it, I'll probably do that, but I don't ever see myself doing that. I told Jesus, hey man, you've got complete permission to use these pictures of this thing however you want, because he's got a spirit like me. He's not doing this to make money. He's doing this to get the word out.
Right.
He's from where I used to vacation. My dad used to take us on vacation every year in Ruidoso. Man, I spent freaking 30 years of summers out there. That's where I'm going to have my ashes spread whenever I pass away. I'm not getting buried. Not over at Masonic Cemetery at Temple. They ain't gonna there.
Or in the south.
No, so I'm getting dumped off the cliffs at the condominiums in Ruidoso. They ain't sticking me in no box. That's one of my greatest fears is I wake up in there. My luck.
Right. Be a dead ringer.
Yeah. No, thank you. That way it's like the polar flip happens, the polarity of the Earth. The flip happens. I don't have to worry about it reanimate me and me coming back as a zombie. That's what I told somebody. I said, I'm blowing in the wind, baby. My mom, she freaked out. She's like, Cory, don't say that. And I was like, why? And she goes, you want a tombstone? I said, no, I don't. I said, I don't want that stuff. I want to be free in the wind. You know, she's like, "Oh my God."
You could take some of your ashes and have somebody plant it with in a garden or
Yeah,
a tree.
Yeah, I looked into that too, man.
So that way, when you tell somebody to eat you, they really can.
Yeah. Hey, or burn me in the fireplace.
Yep, burn you.
Nobody says that, but
you never know what's in that compost for that garden.
I'll be a peach tree or an apple tree.
There you go.
But so no, I'm not. I almost said so. I'm not gonna say it. Okay,
Yeah.
All right, you two, behave.
All right.
Okay, so I go with Jeremy artifact hunting now, and what I've learned is I just watch his back while he's doing it, and I'm like, I get to pick at least one or two things out of what you find. Deal, you know. So we go out on his granddad's property, which sits about 1.5 miles from the Red River. It's south of us. Just a jog on down the road, really. And when we would pull up, we always pull up facing a thicket, a wall thicket in the same spot. We get out. There's a washout behind the thicket, and it runs down into a creek that hooks around to our left, and we always cross that. Most of the time it's a dry creek, but if we've had some rain and stuff, it'll get muddy, but it's not an impossible hop across it. One day we pull up we've done this a lot of times. I can paint you a picture of where we parked, what it looks like in front of you. And we cross the little creek and we go over there and you know, I'm basically sitting there just kind of watching his back, looking around. But that's the only day I've ever felt just a little funky. And I didn't want to say anything because I thought it was my imagination messing with me. Because you question, man, maybe I'm convincing myself that something's watching us. And I don't want to say anything and it be nothing and somebody go, you're getting paranoid. So that day, man, he's not finding anything. And I said, dude, we didn't bring no water. He goes, there's water in the pickup. And I said, I'm heading back to the truck. He said, I'm right behind you, which means in 5 minutes he'll be there. So I go back to the truck and crack a bottle of water, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm looking at this thicket, this wall thicket in front of the truck, and it's probably, I'm going to say 20 yards in front of the pickup where we always park. There's 2 good-sized mesquite trees in between the pickup and the thicket, and I would have never noticed this had one mesquite limb not been coming out like this, the other one coming like this, and it made a triangle underneath it. And I'm sitting there looking, and I noticed there's a wallered out hole in the thicket. Okay? Something, like I said, it washes out behind the thicket. So if you go back there and stand, it's got you dropped till about the 4 feet line. You're not going to be able to see. Okay. Something wallered out a hole in that thicket about, I'm going to say the thicket's probably 6 feet thick and probably 50 yards long. And I'm looking and I see a hole. This is crazy because if those 2 limbs had never crossed and made that triangle, I would have never seen this. I would have never noticed it. It just happened to be right in that triangle. But I noticed that wallered out hole in that thicket, and I thought, the hell? And I looked, and I see a head of something on the other side of it, and it's watching me.
Oh.
Okay? And the shape of this thing's skull was a lot like a cow, or like a, cattle head. It was thick at the top. It come down there down. Well, there's no cattle on this place, and a cow's not going to waller out a hole in the thicket to watch you through the hole.
Mm-hmm.
it had brindle stripes coming across it at an angle like this right here.
Oh, really?
See the eyes?
Mm.
And I'm sitting here, and I know Dogman's real. I've been preparing myself for this all my life. I just didn't know it was quite happening right then. I'm looking, and I'm trying to wrap my head around what I'm seeing, but I'm going with logical explanation. Looks like a cow head. Well, you know, cows don't water out holes in the thicket to watch you through that hole. I've been around all over that place. I know the washout is behind the thicket, so I know the ground level drops. So whatever this is at least 4 feet tall.
Right.
And I'm computing all this in my head. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, it goes and moves out of the view of the hole.
Oh.
Yeah, and it, like if this was the face, it went out of view.
Mm-hmm.
Like it went to its right, my left.
Yep.
Now, the washout is behind it, so if it did run to the right, its right, my left, I couldn't see it because it would still be in that low washout, the direction it went. And I'm, you know, even if you know this stuff is real, you're still trying to wrap your head around what you're seeing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get to looking, y'all, there's another one. It's sitting back, farther back, watching it. It was there the whole time. So what those two things did, they were smart enough to think of this. One sat there in front to watch me, and another one was behind it in case it had to move.
Oh.
It could watch the second.
Right. You know, praying mantis beans have triangle heads.
Hey, this could have been an insect type being too, because we found a track the next day.
Oh.
He did. He went back out there and showed me a picture of it. And he's not a hoaxer type. Man, this is probably the only person I would trust as much as I trust myself when he says that he's seen something or whatever, because we're conduits for it. And whenever he sees this weird stuff, he always gets that pale look that
Right.
he got that night at the cemetery. Well, I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting there going, that thing just moved out of it. And I looked, and I was like, that's another one. But you could tell it was sitting directly behind the first one. Man, that's a cunning mind.
Right.
I mean, people don't even think about stuff like that. I never did. I learned a new trick that day. You know, they knew there was two of us. They watched me come back to the pickup, so they knew the tactic. They had watered out that hole to watch the truck, probably watched me get in there, knew there was two of us, so Jeremy's still over there, and he's like I said, 5 minutes behind me. When that thing sidestepped, and I noticed the other one behind it, I looked to my left, and Jeremy's almost to the pickup. So what had happened was, when that thing went to the right, it had heard or seen Jeremy coming and went to check him out.
Mm.
And the one behind it still got its eyes on me.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's an intelligence, y'all, that most humans don't have, to come up with a plan like that. And someone said, well, foxes could do that. And I said, fox, yeah, right. Foxes waller out a hole to watch you through until another fox sit behind you directly. That's human-like intelligence.
Right.
And strategy. Well, you know, like your friends, when you see something and it scares you, you wait on them to come over, and then you say, hey, go over there and look at that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jeremy's always packing. He's always got a pistol, and he's got that holster right here. And he's not, I've never pulled it for any reason at all, because he's never really had a reason. until this day. So he walks up, and I've got my camera. Man, I had pictures of this thing, but I've lost it on an old phone. But he goes, and he says this every time. He goes, "What are we doing?" And I said, "Taking pictures." And he goes, "Of what?" And I said, "You see where those two limbs cross right there from that mesquite tree, and they come to and they make that triangle in there?" And he goes, and I said, "Look through there. Do you see that hole watered out in the thicket?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Go up there and look and see what's on the other side of that hole."
I double dog area.
No, that's all I left it right there. I said, "Go over and check that out." So, I'm not packing. He is, so he's all right. Anyway, I should have recorded this, y'all, on video, but I'm still dialed in on this thing, looking through the hole. He gets out of the pickup. I don't know why I didn't record this, but like when you see stuff like this, the last thing you think of is, "I'm going to get this on video," because
Right.
I've got my eyes on this second, what I think is a dog, man. Okay, so I'm watching him, and he gets out of the pickup. He starts walking up there, and he stops, and he goes, and he gets down, and I can see him. He's dialed in on that hole watered out, and he goes, and then started moving forward. And he got about probably, I'm gonna say 5 yards, 4 yards from the thicket, and I watched him go and stand up straight. Pulled his pistol, drew it, and backed all the way to the truck.
Wow.
Never took his eyes off the hole. It's the only time I've ever seen him pull his gun. And that's exactly how you do it in a situation. When you're dealing with a predator, you do not run, do not turn your back,
Right.
back away.
Mm-hmm.
He drew down and backed all the way back to the truck. He got back to the truck, holstered, and got in and pulled the door shut. And I said, "What'd you see?" He goes, "I didn't see nothing." I said,
Didn't see nothing.
"This is the first time I've ever seen you pull your pistol, dude, and you backed all the way to the truck. You seen something?" He goes, "I didn't see nothing." I said, "We're not done with this conversation." And I told him on the way back to my place, I said, "Here's what happened before you got there." And at that point in time, I hadn't quite put one and one together as the reason it moved first was he was coming. But I thought of it then. I said, "That first son of a bitch must have heard you coming to the pickup." I said, "The second one was still looking through it." I said, "Did you see the second one?" He goes, "I told you I didn't see nothing." And I said, "You're not leaving without talking with me about it. We're going to discuss this." We get back to the house, and he sits down. We're talking. And I said, "So what'd you see?" And he goes, "I'm tired of telling you, dude, I didn't see nothing." And I said, "Why'd you pull your pistol?" He goes, "It growled at me."
Oh.
I said, "Okay. Be best if you didn't show your cards a corner at a turn. Tell me what the hell, And he's like, "Dude, whatever the hell that was, I don't want no part of it. Tell you that." And I said, "There was two whatever the hell that was." I said, "The one that growled at you is the one that was back up watching us." I said, that first one, I said, "Man, that's why I didn't turn the camera on. I was focused on what was going on." And he goes, "Cole, that thing," he said, "when it growled, it vibrated me."
Wow.
And, I said, "Well," I said, "all the crazy shit we've seen already, I mean, this is just kind of par for the course, Well, he goes back out there the next day by himself.
By himself.
He's a crazy son of a bitch. That's what he is. And And when he told me, he goes, I went back out there. And I said, why did you? I said, my first one was, who the hell did you take out there? You know, I'm like a jealous girlfriend or something, you know. And he goes, I went back out there by myself. And I said, are you crazy? Oh, yeah, you are. Okay. He goes, I found a track in that creek bed.
Oh.
And I said, did you take a picture of it? And he goes, yeah. And he sat his phone down, and it was 3 claws, just the claw marks in the kind of light mud. It was just a little mud, but after the 3 claw marks, here I'm gonna kind of give you a diagram of what it looked like.
Did it have a tail drag?
Here's what this is just a kind of a rough. It had 3 claws in the mud, and there was an indention behind it, probably I'm gonna say 4 or 5 inches behind the end of the claws, and it was a. You see this?
Here, let me make you big.
3 claws.
Okay.
Definitely wasn't a sex.
Hold on, hey, hold on, and I'll fill it in. I just did the outline. Let me fill it in with color, and I'll do green so you can see it.
That rules out Sasquatch.
Reptilian.
Yeah.
I keep
That's
thinking.
what, hey,
Yep.
okay, I thought Dogman at first, and someone said, "Dude, that's a reptilian
Yeah,
trap."
reptilian. Yep, that was a Lizzie man.
But the
Wow.
thing is, the lizard men, do they have brindle stripes?
I've seen. I've heard people explain them differently. I think they all look different. Oh my!
That's the trap.
Oh.
Wow.
So I guess it could have 3 in front and 1 in back. It
I
might not.
think that's the haunch when it's crossed right there.
Right.
It either sat there for a second and squatted down, and you know how they say the dogmans, they got backwards knees, but it's a dog haunch is what it is. When they sit, that's where that indention comes from in the back. Or it could be a reptilian back of the heel, or the tail. I mean, but
yeah, I was thinking that's where the tail hit the ground.
it could have been, but it was only one track.
Wow.
But I've got friends that live down on the river who talk about seeing an otter-looking cryptid, like the head looks like an otter, run and jump across the highway right north of the river. My medicine woman's seen it, and yeah, like an otter-looking cryptid. And I looked it up, and people have seen these suckers in Alaska, where a lot of them are seen. There's one of the cops that he's kind of my age, one of the only ones I ever got along with. He told me one night, he goes, dude, there's animals down there on the river that I've seen crossing Highway 70 that aren't in the books.
Oh my gosh.
There's hyenas down there people have talked about. Hyena type cryptid looking dog men, but in this area, for some reason, y'all, the people that live on the Red River are tight-lipped. I mean, you have got to get to know them, and it takes a lot of time to get them to talk about it.
Wow.
That's how they are. It's just how they are.
Now, Bounty Hunting Bear wants to know, do you think reptiles use their tails like kangaroos? I think they use their tails for balance and stability.
But also,
I know kangaroos use them to fight.
Yeah, they'll hunch
They'll
back
walk back and sit on them and kick.
Yeah.
there's reports of tails and no tails. So I've heard reports of reptilians having no tails, and other people say they said tails.
Well, my medicine woman, she said one day she was coming down Highway 70, and she owns this property that she saw this thing come out of the tree line in, and she's got Sasquatch down there, and she's kind of developed a relationship with him. She's got names for him and everything.
Right.
There's a gray one, she said it seems to be the elder, and then she calls him Big Brother, and then there's a younger one that runs with him, and she calls him Big Red. And man, she planted a cantaloupe garden one year, just a big cantaloupe garden, and she was gonna, do all this stuff with it and give them away and keep some. Those they come in there and ate every one of them, except for they left her a half of one with the flower stuck in the middle.
I've heard they like watermelon, cantaloupe, pumpkins. Yeah.
She goes,
just like we talk about everything else, you're supposed to announce your intentions. Just like with the clan, you have to tell the Bigfoot clan, hey, this is my garden. You can have some, but not all of it. And they'll honor that.
Yeah. Well, she had a blanket hanging on the clothesline one time, and it come up missing. And she just had it draped over it. And she said 2 years later, it was hanging back out there. Oh. And I said, like you left it? And she said, well, sort of. It was just thrown over it. And I said, what did it smell like? And she goes, I threw it away. But the day she said she saw this thing come out of the tree line, she seen them come to the tree line and stop like they had ran it out of the trees.
Okay.
She said it came running across her land, and Highway 70 is the highway that runs along the Red River at the bottom. She said this was on all fours, and she said it came up to 2 legs and started running bipedal like a person. Jumped from inside her property over her fence, and the ditches there are pretty wide where they built this highway. They catch a lot of rainwater, running down into the river. So they got good ditches set in. They're deep and wide. She said this thing jumped in one leap, made it to the middle of the highway, hit the highway, jumped again, and went over the fence on the other side. And she said it looked like a cartoon. It came to a stop when it dug its heels in.
Wow.
And turned and looked at her. And you know how these people say that they get the feeling that they're trying to steal their soul when they get looked at by cryptid?
Right.
She wasn't into this like I am. She didn't listen to people's encounters or anything. She just said, but she's helped me so much with understanding this stuff and understanding how my mind works. She helped me meditate, taught me meditative breathing and stuff, which really improved the quality of my life. But she said this thing looked like it tried to steal her soul. And I said, did anyone else see this? And she said, I didn't realize it, but there was a guy coming the other direction who had seen it too and had stopped probably 1/8 of a mile from each other. We had both stopped. And she said when she watched that thing jump across and stop and look at her, she's sitting there looking at it, and she sees this dude's pickup come up in her view and pull up right up, meeting her next to her.
Wow.
And he said, did you see that? And she said, yes, I did. He said, what in the hell was that? And she goes, I have no idea. And he goes, ain't that your land? She said, over here it is. He said, that thing that seen that come across my property, I wouldn't go back to my house. But I said, well, at least somebody saw it. Somebody else saw it.
Right.
7 days later, this guy was killed in a head-on collision on a dirt road. Yeah.
Wow.
Right there north of a dirt road, right there north of Highway 70.
My.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about trying to steal your soul. There's also soul swappers. So instead of them stealing your soul, they're taking your soul, putting them into cryptid's body, and they're coming into the human body. So if somebody starts acting different or unusual, that's because maybe their soul got switched.
I've heard about that. Like when people say this person come back, that wasn't them.
Right.
That kind of deal. Yeah.
And the original soul of that person could be in a cryptid or an animal. And they're trapped in there
Have
until
you ever-
somebody else can get them out.
Have you ever seen the movie Thunderheart with Val Kilmer, where he goes to the Indian reservation in the Black Hills? He's an FBI agent.
No, I have not watched that whole movie. No.
Okay, well, there's an actor in there, and his name's John Trudell. He's a Native American activist. He's dead now, but he plays a character in the movie. And when I seen the movie, I just become infatuated with him because he's running from the law and stuff, and they lose him, and the Indians tell Val Kilmer, he turned into a deer when he got away from y'all. Well, Val Kilmer seen a deer in the backyard when he was hunting this dude, just standing there. He took off running. He didn't really realize this guy had shapeshift into a deer.
Oh.
But anyway, I started looking this John. You need to look him up, John Trudell, and he would give these speeches. He's an activist. I think the government took his daughter and his wife out.
Oh wow!
All the speaking up he done. But there was a quote in there from him I'll never forget. I wrote it down in a notebook, and it said, "You need to protect your soul because we live in a world that eats souls."
Yep.
Mm.
And then you just mentioned that, and I thought of that, and I just read that the other day.
And they turn into NPCs probably.
Who knows?
I mean,
I know.
from everything I've seen, this stuff is very real.
Mm-hmm.
Dark magic is real. Ceremonial, I'm telling y'all, there's a great channel called Unearthing the Supernatural, and these guys are medicine men, and they travel around and do investigations and help people and stuff. But they're like third or fourth generation Navajo medicine men.
Wow.
That's cool.
And something I always thought about, when people take spirit boxes out, how come everyone speaks English in them when they talk to you?
Yep.
How come you never hear anyone speaking Irish or any of the language that these people that just came here at the time from Ireland, Scotland, Africa, whatever, you never hear any of these spirits speak in their language.
Right. Or you don't
these guys going.
You don't hear their age in it either. You don't hear a young child or a boy's voice, or you don't hear an old man's voice. It's always the same tone, same kind of voice.
Okay. When these guys take their ancestor spirits with them on their investigations to help them. They're so connected spiritually. These spirits will speak to them through that box in Navajo. They speak Navajo to these guys.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
Man, I'm telling you, I'm hooked on their channel. I've learned so much from them.
Wow.
A lot of their ceremonial stuff they don't put in there when they do,
Right.
like removals and exorcisms and stuff. They don't show it because they just it's sacred to them.
Yeah, I
But
mean, it's
there is some amazing
words, and they don't want everybody to know the words because you never know what people's going to do with those words. I mean, a
lot of those spirits, they speak ancient Navajo because where they live and everything, and those family spirits, they'll speak to them and warn them of danger and stuff that's coming around them and stuff. And you'll hear the guy, his name, they call him Hero. That's his nickname with the Navajo, Hero. But man, I'm telling you, this dude does some amazing stuff, and I've learned a lot from him. Just
wow. Awesome.
He went to Tombstone, Arizona, to all the Birdcage Theater and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And come up to a mirror and was going, man, I think they travel through this mirror. And in the spirit box, you hear, he can see.
Oh.
They're talking about him. And he's like, you can see me? And they're like, yeah. Shaman. But I learned something from him. I heard him tell some of the people that was with him one time on the investigation. He said, when we go in here, he said, try not to turn counterclockwise all the way around. when you hear something or whatever, when you spin around, try to spin right, clockwise. Because when you start to spin left and get turning left, he said it opens you up for attack.
Oh, wow.
And I thought to myself, man, I got a little delirious one night, and I think that's what I was doing. You know, on a little investigation. And I got to thinking about it. He said, they'll do it. They'll get you turning left, spinning left, counterclockwise. And it lowers, it just opens you up. He said, so keep yourself turning clockwise. And I was like, you know, valuable information. Yeah. But I'm telling y'all, there's some crazy stuff on there. There was a spirit in an old jail that hurt one of his friends, and he said he could see him. He walks in there and goes, "Back F up." And you hear something hit the wall, and you hear that spirit in that box go, "Oh my God."
Wow.
I mean, I'm telling you, this he's the real deal.
Wow. I'll have to check that out.
Hey, find on Unearthing the Supernatural, find the thumbnail that says Black Star Canyon and check that out.
Black Star Canyon.
Black Star Canyon. They cross this water and go into these spirit, and Hero will tell you, hey, everybody stop. They're waiting right up here. I need to go talk to them. And he'll walk up and start speaking Navajo, and he's asking permission to cross. You know, he's always respectful. He said, I asked him, can I help you, you know, in any way? But he's also got his other spirits with him, his old family that are deceased, and they'll warn him. But all of a sudden you hear the audio change, Geryl, and it's weird. And you hear his little brother go, I don't feel human anymore.
Yeah.
And he goes, it's because you're not.
Right.
We're crossing into their realm. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, I can hear this.
What, Jane?
Unearthing the Supernatural?
Unearthing the Supernatural, Black Star Canyon.
All right, I found the channel. Okay.
Their visit to Tombstone is an awesome video. They communicate with certain entities on the other side of mirrors, and they'll go look at it, and there won't be any prints or anything on the mirror. And they'll come back, and there'll be little bitty handprints on the mirror from the other side, and little feet prints.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they get communication like through the spirit boxes better than anybody I've ever seen that use them. But that really made a believer out of me when they started speaking Navajo through that thing. Someone asked him one night, you know the spirit box is genuinely real? He said, when I hear him speak Navajo.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I generally, man, I'll watch any channel I can, and when I see somebody like that that's genuinely the real deal, man, I'll check for their videos even when I don't get alerts, just to make sure, you know, that my YouTube alerts miss it, because they miss stuff sometimes. But
yeah, the other thing I was thinking about, and I haven't ever said this to anybody, but I think about it once in a while. I was like, old mirrors when they're portals, if you take a flashlight and shine it, a normal mirror will reflect you and almost blind you, but a portal mirror will absorb that light and you won't get that reflection back. So it's like it's continuing on into the other side.
Okay. Collect antique furniture, like old, anything I come across that's really old, like in an old abandoned house or whatever, that no one owns the property anymore. I know everyone's deceased and it's just abandoned. Sometimes there'll be an old desk with a mirror or something like that, and I'll take it, and, you know, I've got family that likes to fix them up or whatever, and I'll just let them have them. But any mirror I get, when I keep it, I face it to the wall and do not hang it up.
Right.
And especially, I've got one mirror in my house, and it's in the bathroom. Some girl asked me one time, Cory, how come you don't have any mirrors hanging out everywhere? And I said, there's one in the bathroom. And she goes, yeah, but you don't have them anywhere else. And I said, I don't want them anywhere else. And she goes, why? And I said, you don't want to know. But
See,
when you take old mirrors, you don't want them facing another mirror.
right.
That's a no-no.
The other thing
Because
is in the old days when they used to have the wakes in the parlor rooms of the house,
yeah,
they would
Yeah.
cover them. They would cover the mirrors with cloth or blankets, so that way when
That's
you
right.
pass the other side, your spirit
Yeah.
don't go through the mirrors, or something else doesn't come out of the mirrors to collect it.
it's called binding, and it's real. I mean, there's I follow the rules, you know, when it comes to that stuff. I'm fixing to have to plug my phone in. I didn't realize talking to y'all this time. I'm down to like 15%.
Yeah, we're almost at the 3-hour mark. We need to kind of wrap this
Oh
up.
my God. Have I been talking that long?
It's almost 3 hours.
2 hours and 40 minutes so far.
Good God.
So yeah, we
Why
need
didn't
to.
y'all tell me?
Because we're having fun talking to you. We don't want to stop either, but we actually do need to end here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, I had an awesome time. Sorry I yapped so much.
No, that's perfect.
Why we have you on?
We love it when guests just keep on going. It's fun for us too.
Yeah, we wanted to hear
The other day, my dad goes, why do you even care about this stuff? And I said, I've got no choice. You know, I've been attacked. I've been attacked. I had my soul snatched out of my body one night by something.
Wow.
And yeah, I've rebuked 2 things in my life in the name of Jesus Christ, and that's one of them. But man, there's just like I said, man, there's so much that's happened to me, guys. I need to write them all down in a notebook.
Yes, you do. Yes, we need to write them all down.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, would y'all pop that picture up of that storm cloud right quick before we get off?
Yes.
Those are the thunder beings.
Oh, wow.
Can you zoom in? Yeah. Let's check old dude peeping out to the left first.
Other people are seeing things like this too.
Now,
oh wow.
I know pareidolia is real, you know?
Right.
But come on. That's a dude.
Yeah, other people are people like they're standing in the clouds. Yes.
But I learned about the thunder beings through Unearthing the Supernatural. My cousin took this picture. Hey, he didn't even know he caught this stuff in it. He just thought the storm cell looked cool. And I said, Eric, have you looked close at this? And he goes, no, that's a tail right there at the bottom. Now, if you'll go to your right, you'll see the head sticking out on the other side of the cloud of that thing with the tail.
Oh,
right
like a dragon?
There. Yeah. Okay. Now, I didn't notice this. Eric, what is his name?
Testerman?
E.D. Testerman?
Yeah, Testerman.
Yeah. Eric found a Thunderbird in there that I had missed. If you'll go to the right, right there, it's about dead center right now. Zoom in. There it is. That's a Thunderbird right there.
Wow.
If you zoom in close, you can see its tail.
I do see it. I see the tail, wings, and head. Okay.
That's as far as it'll let me zoom in unless I make it actually bigger.
Wow.
Let me see if I can. That's about as close as I can get to it.
I missed that when I was like, damn, I feel dumb. He goes, man, that's why you got to let somebody else look at it, you know?
Yeah.
I was seeing this gray figure. Looks like a triangle head with 2 eyes and a mouth and maybe a nose in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had people point that out too. And I'm like,
and look, move your mouse up.
But those 3 things I pointed out, you cannot dismiss those as pareidolia.
That looks like a slee stack.
Well, think about this.
Ooh.
Look at how that tail correlates with that thing's head right there. It's right even with it. It's got to be part of it.
Right. Yeah, it looks like a dragon to me.
Yes, it's got horns, kind of. But I think the most telling one of all this is old boy peeping out.
Right.
That looks like Stonehenge.
It almost reminds me of Easter Island statues too.
Yeah.
Wow.
But if you zoom in really close, you can see that thing's eyes, that dude's eyes. You can see them.
That's not a cloud. Mm-mm.
No.
Yeah,
But those are the thunder beings.
Wow.
Thunderbird, they call it Thunderbird. That's one of the thunder beings.
Right.
There's all different ones. But I know that for sure there's 3 of them right there.
That's a good.
And my cousin takes pictures of lightning storms, and I'll say, send me every one of them you take, because he don't notice stuff like that because he's not really looking for it. But he's really good at taking lightning storm pictures and stuff. Man, he has got some of the craziest shit I have ever seen that he catches in the storms.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But the thunder beings were sent to destroy the Anasazi. That's where I learned all this from Unearthing the Supernatural. When you act up and start getting too big for your britches and playing with dark magic and stuff, you'll get them called on you. But, man, I'm fixing to get off here, guys. My phone's about to die.
Yeah.
We need to get going anyway. No, that's been great. Thank you for coming on, Cory. This has been fun.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me, guys.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes.
You bet.
And we will
I just want to get it out to everybody.
And we will see you around in everyone's chats.
Yeah. Anytime you get some new stuff comes up to you, or you remember something different, let us know, and we'll bring you back on.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And thank you, moderators. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
We'll see y'all.
All right.
Bye, Cory. Thank you.
You bet.
So everybody make sure you go over and check out Cory. Comes on the Cryptid Huntress. It's been on our channel.
Oh, hey, I've got my own. I'm fixing to having videos on my channel.
Right, I was getting ready to say you have your own channel. I have the logo right down there in the corner, Boondock Mojo, so you can find him on YouTube, and make sure you go over there and check that out. Like you said, he's going to start putting videos up, so be a good place to check out.
My art up too.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much.
We'll see you guys.
All right. Thanks, Cory.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And don't forget, we do have the 24/7 going, and we will see you Wednesday night on Night Owl Lounge. And thank you, moderators, for being here.
Yep. It's been fun. We really enjoyed this talk we had with Cory, and it's very enlightening, and a lot of new stuff came out for me and made me think of some new stuff. So we'll probably be talking about it Wednesday night on the Night Owl Lounge. I'm sure we'll bring up some of this stuff. So check us out Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. Central, and we hang out all night on the Night Owl Lounge and talk about all this kind of stuff, kind of a recap and some new stuff and cryptid reports. So check it out. Saying that, keep looking up.
Keep your vibrations high.
Love you guys. See you next time.
Love.